Start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, invocation by First United Methodist Church.
Would you join me in prayer? God of days past, present, and of days yet to come, we're grateful for your presence with us on this journey through life. We ask your guiding hand for our leaders gathered at these tables this evening, just as we pray for our leaders gathered in Pierre and the leaders that are gathered in our nation's capital as we transition from one administration to another. God, these are challenging days in our world and even in our community. May we all seek your path of grace and hope, and may we truly seek out the best way forward to love you, love our neighbor, as we also love ourselves. I pray this in the name of Jesus the Christ. Amen.
Roll call.
Sabers. Here. Goldhammer.
Here.
Dosher. McCardle. Here. Barrington. Here. Bathke. Here. Sharks. Here. Smith.
Here. Okay, we have a quorum. Approval of consent agenda items. Items appearing on the consent agenda may be removed by a city council member for discussion at the beginning of the formal agenda items. Would anyone like to remove anything? If
Move to
not,
approve.
oh, we got a motion by Mr. Goldhammer. Do we want to do some of these reports first? Let's start with the reports. Who wants to go first on the report?
I'll second that.
Okay, we'll second by Mr. Smith, and then we'll do the reports. Who's going first? Dave, you look like you're excited.
Well, obviously, we have a video, so I'll keep my comments short. David Lambert with Chamber and Development. I do the regional stuff, so the rest of it, I'll try to answer any questions that you have, but obviously, we've been having a very active 2024, hoping for as active or more active in 25, so roll the video.
This is the Quarter 4 report for 2024 for the Mitchell Area Chamber of Commerce, Convention and Visitors Bureau, and Mitchell Development Corporation. Starting off with the Mitchell Chamber. The Mitchell Chamber welcomed 5 new members this quarter and hosted multiple ribbon cuttings, including Etria Products, Muth Electric, Abbott House, My Place Hotel, Palace City Brewing, and AccuData Bookkeeping. The Government Affairs Committee hosted 2 leadership Mitchell sessions, one in October on servant leadership and one in November on agriculture business. Connect Mitchell also had a First Friday coffee in October for the safe place of Eastern South Dakota. The Community Concierge hosted 2 newcomer events, one in October at Board and Brush and one in November at Q's Jewelry. And now the Mitchell Convention and Visitors Bureau. This quarter, the Mitchell CVB finalized the 2025 marketing plans in collaboration with Ambridge and Love Communications. This strategy includes a multimedia campaign which targets families in Minnesota, Nebraska, Iowa, and Missouri, and designed to showcase the unique experiences Mitchell offers. This quarter, we also welcomed pheasant hunters to Mitchell by handing out Mitchell swag at the airport and at Cabela's and welcoming them on opening weekend. We also had a multimedia campaign for hunting that included print and radio advertisement. This quarter, we also premiered a Shop Local promotion commercial that aired over the holiday season, which encouraged people to do holiday shopping locally in Mitchell. And up next, the Mitchell Area Development Corporation. The MADC welcomed 2 new residents with the Welcome to Your Pals gift bag, which includes a $100 gift card, and they are currently working on developing a welcome coupon book for newcomers. They finished the daycare grant, which was $100,000, and they allocated that to 26 child care providers supporting new and existing facilities. Governor Kristi Noem toured the Ridgeview on Foster Housing Development, which is a collaboration between Mitchell Area Housing and the MADC. In 2024, for the rehab/down payment grants, there were 10 projects completed and 3 more were anticipated by the end of 2024. A $16 million funding request was submitted for rail infrastructure at the High Plains soybean processing plant. The South Dakota Rail Authority approved $12.6 million at 2.95% interest rate, advancing this crucial project. The MADC is also planning on hosting a third Mitchell Workforce Summit, which focuses on lean philosophy in March. The MADC also held its first ever pheasant hunt on November 2nd, which hosted prospective businesses considering relocation or expansion to Mitchell. This quarter, the MADC partnered with the James Valley Community Center to hold Initiated Measure 28 informational meeting. Mitchell ended up opposing IM 28 at almost 80%. This was the highest rate out of all first-class municipalities. And now the Dakota Heartland Development Association. For business development in White Lake, a new business, Mama's Little Bakery, has opened a Main Street location in downtown White Lake. They are working with the local bank and supported by the community. The owners bought and completely remodeled the Main Street building, providing space for both the bakery and an apartment upstairs. In White Lake Housing, the White Lake Development facilitated the acquisition of a Jensen design-build workforce housing, 2-bed, 1-bath triplex to provide housing for workforce needs of the Aurora Rural Nursing Home, School District, and Avera Medical Clinic. For advocacy and Corsica Armor Trip, Corsica and Armor Development Corps individually invited local legislators and other community leaders to visit the community and learn about success and challenges and build relationships with them. The trip development used technology via Zoom and conference call to visit with their legislators during their December board meeting.
Questions?
Any questions?
Good work.
Thank you. I appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you. Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to speak on this? Okay, roll call.
Dosher. McCardle. Barrington. Bathke. Charts.
Aye.
Smith. Sabers. Goldammer.
Okay, motion carries. Citizens input. If you need to address the mayor and members of the city council on an item that was not on the agenda, excluding personnel items, please come forward to the podium and state your name and your concern. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes. Items will be considered, but no action will be taken at this time.
Good evening, Council Mayor. My name is Stuart Hansen. This is my opinion. It has been my opinion for many years. Many months ago at a previous council meeting, I said that I was not a member of the Good Old Boys Club. I'd like to share what, to me, is the Good Old Boys Club. It's a person or group of people that have a position of power, whether it be the council member, the mayor, or those in the community that have the money or a name behind them. It's a person or group of people that get together behind closed doors, in secret, if you will, making decisions that benefit community members that have the power or the money or a name. Decisions that are made in advance of any council meeting. Decisions that are made that don't benefit the community as a whole, but benefits those that have an agenda. If you're in a position of power or have the money or a name, and you're getting deals or favors or expecting deals or favors, then you're in the club. If you're in a position of power and you're doing something that the average citizen can't do, maybe going to a concert at the Corn Palace without paying, or going to a baseball game or hockey game without paying, you're in the club. At the last council meeting, when speaking about the opinion piece the mayor submitted to the Mitchell Republic that asked what was really holding Mitchell back, Mr. McCardle, president of the city council, said it gave the city a black eye. It's negative to the city of Mitchell, and we can't do that and have the city grow. It made a lot of noise around town. I agree. But in my neck of the woods, the noise was positive. I don't think it gave the city a black eye, more like a red face. Mr. McCardle also said it's negative to the city. In my opinion, it's a positive thing for Mitchell. Now that this question has been asked publicly, I'm hoping this will lead to a positive change for Mitchell. Mr. McCardle also said we can't do that and have the city grow. What do you mean grow? The city hasn't grown in years. And why is that? To the council members that have been on the council for 10 plus years, why hasn't Mitchell grown for over a decade? And finally, Mr. McCardle said we have to work as a team. Whose team are you on? Or the other five council members that voted no to eliminate the $10 fee for spring cleanup? Seems to me you're on the opposing team. Obviously not the same team as the two council members that voted yes to eliminate the $10 fee. To Mr. Bathke and Mr. Goldhammer, you should be commended for not letting politics play a role in your yes votes. The mayor was elected because the citizens of Mitchell are sick and tired of the same old, same old. They also elected him because of his incredible work ethic and dedication to this community. And by the way, Jordan gets his incredible work ethic from his mom, who worked for the city of Mitchell for 25 years. And she's the hardest working, most dedicated person I've ever known. And I did not know that she was going to be here tonight, so she's probably going to slap me when I get back. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the council? Okay, next we're going to move to mayor and city council discussion items. Does anyone want to discuss anything? If not, I'll go. I want to be last this time. So we met with Bar Engineering again today, and we've been meeting monthly, I think monthly. And we discussed, a couple of people that live around the lake have some questions on what they are allowed to do as far as shoreline rehabilitation, and if they're allowed to go out farther or put a beach in. So I think we're going to have a meeting, we're going to schedule a meeting towards the end of March. Does that sound about right? By that time, we should have a lot more information from Bar as far as biddable project and all that going forward. So then we can have a meeting for everyone that's going to be heavily involved, since it's basically in their backyard, and then they'll be able to ask questions. We'll gather all that information, and then we'll move forward and then have another lake meeting and then answer those questions. Does that sound fair, Joe?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, moving forward with that project so far. Okay, anyone else?
Mayor, I do have one thing. It's probably been about 6 months or so, we had that young gal that was 8 years old or so that came up and helped us raise money for the fire station
Yep,
and the police
yep.
station with the mascots and so forth. And I don't know if we've officially brought her back and show the pictures of what we purchased and so forth, but I don't know, and maybe at some point we can reach back out to her parents and see if they'd want to come back so we can formally thank her for that.
Dan, do you have that young lady's contact information?
I'll get hold of them.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. Because when she got up here, I honestly thought that she spoke more intelligently than some people that get up during public input. So I just want to commend that young gal for being positive and wanting to do something special for Mitchell.
All right, sounds good.
I want to jump back to the lake real quick. I talked to Chief Polarize about this. I don't know what's going on with the lake, why it's so open on the east edge,
It's weird.
but I would just remind people, stay off it. Because it looks frozen, it's not. There's people ice fishing out there further to the west, but on the east edge there, today it's still there's open water out there. So stay off it,
Be careful.
yes.
I guess it froze over again, and then it opened right back up, so we put space heaters under the water. Okay. Anything else before we move on? Okay, Board of Adjustment. Entertain a motion for the city council to recess and sit as the Board of Adjustment.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer. Second by Mr. McCardle. Okay, further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. Hearing and action on the application for Ashbrook Trail Apartments LP conditional use permit. Ashbrook Trail Apartment Limited Partnership has applied for a conditional use permit for a multifamily dwelling of more than 24 units located at 2100 block of North Minnesota Street, legally described as shown on the agenda. Mr. Jenigus.
Mr. Mayor and Council, notices are sent out to the neighbors, published in the paper, signs posted. There were 2 letters that were returned with some safety concerns and traffic in the area. Planning Commission did motion to approve the conditional use with the condition that there is no vehicular access to Wisconsin Street. The applicant would like to build a 43-unit, over 55-year-old apartment complex, which would be 27 one-bedroom, 16 two-bedroom apartments. They have in their plan for 65 parking stalls, which is meets the minimum for that area. It's a 3-story building. The applicant's here if you have any questions for them, or I can answer any questions that you have for me as well.
So it sounds like, in looking through the letters that were received on behalf of, Vantage Point, innovative, all of the assisted and residential areas there. Everyone has different opinions about where access roads should be. Some are saying, don't do it on Minnesota, don't do it. I mean, it's hard to think of it going off and on the bypass. It's hard to think of it on 23rd. Do you have some idea what was that decided where that would go?
There was discussion during the meeting about this. The age group that is going to be using this facility will not be driving a whole lot or doing the 8 and 5 o'clock peak times most likely. They'll just be throughout the day moving in and out of there. There was discussion about should Minnesota be no parking at all because of maybe parking vehicles on that road. There is enough parking at this apartment complex to not need any of that, and they do not support that for any of their other locations that they have. The access to Wisconsin Street was discussed because there's no curb and gutter there, so there's no sidewalk on Wisconsin
Right.
Street for the neighbors to be walking. Joe can answer more towards the traffic counts in that area.
Obviously, there's a lot of traffic at that area around 8 and 5 o'clock, starting and quitting time. I think people are going to change their habits based off of how they feel need to get in and out of that area. I know the plan does show the driveway coming off Minnesota. I'm not 100% sure why we would limit them access to Wisconsin if they wanted an access on that street. Not to say we couldn't add curb and gutter and sidewalk to Wisconsin Street if it became an issue. But yeah, we could monitor that area. I'm sure there are businesses there that like parking on Minnesota. I'm sure some businesses that would prefer there not be. If you did move away from no parking, you could go to a 3-lane with a center turning lane, which could potentially help that area. We'd have to work with the DOT if we were going to put a turning lane at Highway 37. So that would have to be in conjunction with the DOT in order to make that happen. So there's some different scenarios, but at this time, I don't know why we would limit them access to either street.
Yeah, and currently there's no parking happening on Minnesota. And you just said that we wouldn't need parking on Minnesota because they'd have their own. I think the bigger concern for me is just access. And I wondered about if you thought there was any chance of putting in a light there or something that would allow people, there's a lot of people I mean, my mom lives in there, so I see a lot of people in wheelchairs riding around and things like that. So just wondered if you thought there might be a need for a light or any other kind of traffic control.
So there is currently a light at Highway 37.
Right, and Minnesota.
And Minnesota. As far as additionally for that area, to me, I believe if there is a bottleneck, the bottleneck is at Highway 37. Because one of the complaints we received is that to make a left-hand turn going south is difficult, so they drive around, they go to 23rd back to Main Street. Is that a big enough inconvenience to make changes? Or I don't think adding a traffic light would necessarily help, because your main travel time is probably your left and right-hand turn at Innovative.
Right.
And same thing with leaving. Whereas the actual cross-traffic that are using that not to access those driveways is probably relatively small.
Mark, when do they hope to start and be completed by?
I believe they said the spring. I'll let the applicant answer that question. She's here.
Hi, good evening. I'm Joan Franken with JMF Investments. So we would plan to start construction early summer. We would like it late spring, but just depends on how the plan review process and our bids come in. And then it takes approximately 12 to 14 months for it to be constructed. So we wouldn't have units available until it would be the following summer of 2026. And then we have taken out the access in our preliminary site plan that the engineers are working on. We have taken out the access onto Wisconsin pending the fire review at the city, just so we have enough space, and we do, for the fire truck to come in and turn around in that. And we too are, the tenants that we will have there, their average age of a 55 and older designated aged apartment complex for us. The average age is 70. And so not all of them, like 65, on average, 65% of them have vehicles. And so with that, they won't be parking on the street because of walking then onto the complex. And we feel there's ample parking for visitors to come see them. Anyone else have any questions while I'm up here?
So is this a 24-hour care facility?
No, this is independent living for 55 and older.
Is it a single-level building?
It's a 3-story building
Okay.
with an elevator, and we have 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms. I believe he went through that a little bit, but 27 1-bedrooms and 16 2-bedrooms.
I drove out there today, and I personally don't see what the big issue is with accessing onto Wisconsin Street.
And that, so we would expect if people left the complex, they would go to the inner part of the city there. So accessing a street, Wisconsin, that has the cul-de-sac that doesn't go out to the highway, we just don't see a need for them to access onto Wisconsin. And with the senior facility next door too, I mean, we want it to be safe for our residents as well, but and for them.
And I do agree that it's a very specific time when there is congestion on Minnesota there. It's a very, I mean, you can set your clock to it. 5 o'clock, boom, 8 o'clock, boom, that's going to be full. So I guess if people learn to kind of manage when they decide to go have coffee or whatever, then that'll be their best defense.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Real quick, we got to get a motion before we can get further discussion on this.
You don't want discussion yet?
Not quite yet.
Okay.
Just give me a second here.
I'll move to approve.
Okay, we got a motion made, we got a motion and a second. Okay.
Clarification on the motion, is that with no access or with access still?
Without limit to access.
Okay.
So they have full access. Okay, we got a motion and a second. Further discussion before we go to the audience member? Okay, now it's time.
Yeah. Well, I own the buildings at Innovative Systems, and I think...
Can you state your name for everyone at home?
Excuse me, Roger Music.
Thank you.
And I think I represent Vantage Point also from discussions with Larry. But we're concerned if you put cars there and there's a snowstorm, it's going to get to be a mess. I mean, it's hard enough today when there's 6 or 8 inches of snow. The city doesn't get the road into the building plowed out necessarily in time. And I think if there's no snow or anything like that going on, it's maybe wide enough that you could put cars on both sides and still get through, but it's not any too wide. But if you happen to have 6, 8 inches of snow and the snowplow comes through, you're screwed. So,
Roger, are you talking about Minnesota?
yes, on Minnesota Street, yeah. And we're glad to hear that there's, older people and less cars, so that makes the likelihood of anybody parking on Minnesota very small, but nobody, to my knowledge, ever parks there today. I don't think I've ever seen a car in Minnesota. But it's just if you don't have some kind of restrictions and there's foot of snow, it's going to be a real mess. You got 500 people that can't get to their office effectively or can't get out.
Do we have a picture of the footprint of this, like where the parking lot is slated to be? Is there a picture that has that drawing?
I do not have one included in that because this is just for the conditional use.
Oh, okay, it's just, okay.
Yeah.
So we'll have to look at that
So,
when that comes.
yeah, I'm not against the apartment at all. I'm just wanting to make sure that, in a winter storm, we have ways to get in and out.
Yeah,
Yep.
I agree.
So, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I also think in future discussions, I don't know that I would be opposed to looking at closing or making it so there was no street parking, especially from Innovative Drive up to the corner of Minnesota there, and potentially looking at three lanes as a possibility as that area becomes fully developed.
I think that was requested as well, wasn't it, Joe?
No, it was just a comment that was brought up.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
That's what I meant, by someone else, requested by someone else.
So during snow events, I know no one likes this, but ticket and towing would also be an option if it became an issue.
That's like 2 hours after the employees come to work.
I think one thing we have to look at is, all you have to do is look on the other side, on the south side of 37, where the Abbott House has, all those vehicles are always parked there. It's extremely hard to see there. And we don't need that, where there's going to be 500 people going into work there. So I like Jordan's idea, maybe looking at closing it for parking there.
Tim's idea? I have a question. So when you build an apartment, is there a parking, yes, you're right. Is there a parking standard? So like one parking spot per unit?
Our city code is 1 per unit and 1.5 per 2 units. So essentially, if you have, say you have 4 units there, you'd have to have 6 stalls. 1 for every 1 and 1.5 for every 2 is actually the way it's set, I believe. Is that right, Justin?
So there'd be 60 plus parking spots for that 47 units?
There's
Okay.
65 for this.
Okay, 65.
And this portion is an emergency snow route, designated in code.
Yeah, and so I think I was okay without the restriction on there. I would caution as somebody who works at a place that sometimes as traffic becomes congested, just that people might try and cut across the parking lot to get to Wisconsin to get out. But I think most of the traffic is going to 37 when they're trying to get out of there. And so I don't know that that would create a solution for anyone, but just something to be aware of.
I'd be perfectly happy if you did no parking from the Innovative Drive to the highway. I think that would solve 99% of the problem.
Should we put that on the list then, Joe, or?
I think we monitor. Like you said, there's no one parking there now. If it does become an issue, I think we can address it.
Okay. Compromise?
I almost don't feel like we should say, I feel like we shouldn't have it on at any point between the highway and West 23rd. I feel like that whole Minnesota section should be left parking.
But that would be a separate topic at a
Yep,
different
that'll
time,
be
right?
a separate
Okay.
topic.
Anyone else? Anything else?
I want to make a quick comment unrelated to this, but worthy of noting. Roger, I've been meaning to text you and congratulate you on being Person of the Year. Very
Congratulations.
well deserved, and thank you what you've done for Mitchell. Really appreciate it.
And then I just want to say on this apartment, I think our housing study says we need 45 houses a year, or 45 units a year, so this is going to take care of 1 year, so thank you. Okay, any further discussion before we vote? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Hearing an action on the application for Bob Jackson variance permit. Bob Jackson has applied for a variance permit for a combination of attached and detached accessory building of 3,247 square feet versus 2,000 square feet to build a new attached accessory building of 3,047 square feet and a detached accessory building of 200 square feet. This is located at 1800 block of Charles Avenue, legally described as shown on the agenda. Mr. Jenigas.
Mr. Mayor and Council, notices were sent out to neighbors, published in the paper, signs posted. There were 4 letters returned in favor of this. The applicant would like to build an attached garage of just over 3,000 square feet and then have a shed in the backyard of about 200 square feet. He currently owns the west side of this parcel and has a purchase agreement for Lot 3. So essentially, he'd be building on a lot and a half, so it'd be 150 feet wide for his lot that he would be building on this thing. He does have some renderings or elevations that go along with this. He'd like to have the garage, so that way he doesn't have to store anything outside. He can get his vehicles, trailers, lawn equipment, and then maybe a little spot for a shop for his personal stuff, no wrenching on other people's stuff at that location. Can answer any questions you have for me. The applicant's also here if you have any questions for him.
Motion to approve. Motion by Mr. Sievers. Second by Mrs. Chirks. Any further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? Okay. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Reconvene as City Council. Entertain a motion for the Board of Adjustment to adjourn and the City Council to reconvene in regular session.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Corn Palace Plaza expansion presentation. Ms. Owen.
Mayor and council, today we have, making sure my microphone's on. Lyle Pudwell from Confluence Architects is here to review the results of the schematic design that was completed in 2024. We did have a committee that got together and talked about the different potential features in the plaza, and we're ready to present the results on that today. We do have some funds that were budgeted in 2024 as well as in 2025. If council does decide to proceed with the design as it's proposed today, we would have to bring back a design contract to the next meeting. Likely it would be designed over the year, and then we would start construction in 2026. At that time, when we bring back the design contract, I could also bring back a proposed budget for council to review as well. That's all I had to say, and I'll turn it over to Lyle.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Get my sheet going here.
Mayor, Council, as Stephanie said, my name is Lyle Pudwell. I'm a landscape architect with Confluence out of our Sioux Falls office. Appreciate the opportunity to come present again. Been involved with the Corn Palace expansion on the plaza from the initial concepts going back to 2016. So it's really kind of special to me and exciting to kind of see it continue to grow and have success. And the things that we talked about, excited to kind of share what the committee has kind of come up with. So back when we were first working on the concept, we had always looked at that scoreboard property as a potential for expansion. I think, yeah, if you would, Stephanie, please. The initial concept, we were fundraising for that first phase, and then quickly the second phase came on there. But the ultimate goal included that space behind the scoreboard, and then the development of the space in front as well. Now, fast forward, and obviously with Bradley's developing and the scoreboard gone, we've got a great opportunity to kind of look at what the next phase and what the potential for the space and that expansion might mean. So we went through a planning process, and if you want to go ahead a couple. So went through a planning process to kind of brainstorm what might be out there. So we got together a group of stakeholders. We held kind of a kickoff workshop to just have discussions and kind of do some sketch concepts to kind of rough out some ideas what might happen in that area. We took that feedback from that afternoon workshop back to our office, kind of refined some concepts, came back to that group and presented, and then heard feedback on that, put that into a refined final, and then put some budget numbers to it. So the process here kind of defined. But for us, as consultants doing the design work, we loved working that way, especially in this type of project, because we could get all the kind of voices in the community to the table, talk through things as we're designing, and then kind of efficiently move forward to kind of develop that concept. So the priorities, when I initially talked with Stephanie, these were some of the priorities that first came to light. So we wanted to utilize the scoreboard space and potentially look at that east parking lot. We know that events have been successful there. There's some of the things that some additional things we wanted to accomplish, including kind of enhancing the visitor and event experience of the downtown area, maybe expanding some of the children's recreation elements within that area, addressing some shade and seating opportunities, and expansion of that. But then while we're kind of making these changes, make sure we're maintaining flexibility for events, ability to kind of secure the perimeter so it can be ticketed, and we can have some control of the space during events, and then ensure this next phase really feels integrated. We don't want a phase 1 and 2 and then the phase 3 to kind of have that kind of identifiable edge. So from that kickoff workshop with the client team, you can see the groups represented kind of down there in the right. I think we had a group of about 12 to 15 that kind of came and went through the afternoon. But we went through and reviewed that project site, kind of talked about what some of the challenges, opportunities were there, how parking works, how events work, those type of things. We confirmed the project goals, and then we discussed specific features that might be, we might want to find potential for inclusion. And then with that, we broke as a group, and then myself and Emily and from our office, and then a few from the group, we sat around and kind of sketched out some options, kind of looked at space planning, how things fit together, where relationships wanted to be. And then with that, we came up with some concepts. So in that initial workshop, these were some of the very specific comments and discussion items from that committee. I'm not going to read them all on there, but a lot of it is dealing with activities, how we can program the space, and how it can be used and expand the uses, and then just what type of experience we want to provide for people. So a couple of the initial sketch concepts, and these are really rough, but just great communication tools to kind of work through, relationships. So specifically, I think one of the big things that came out of the workshop was to the west, which is to the left on these graphics. On Main Street, we wanted kind of a lawn space or a gathering area for seating, whether it was on a lawn or plaza. And then that kind of made sense as far as being back of the performance area where maybe a kid's zone would be located. So we found kind of a home for that. And then as we moved to the east, that existing parking lot back there has 2 drive lanes and then 3 bays of parking. So we could still maintain a portion of that parking lot and capture the north portion of it to expand a lawn that would expand the performance area, and then look at some features on the backside. Yep. So this is the refined concept, kind of where we landed after our feedback and visit with the group. So on Main Street, that area which was the scoreboard seating area, we've now kind of opened that to a plaza space that expands towards Main Street. So in that area, there'd be some additional signage, kind of some photo opportunities, some opportunities there to have some interpretive signage that could talk about the theming of the seasonal murals, just in the process of the murals themselves. So it's kind of opening up that way. We know that with parades and events that Main Street's really busy, so we kind of felt that keeping that a bigger open space was valuable. You'll see in some of the illustrations as far as kind of scale there. And then as we transition into that expanded courtyard, that green area there you're seeing is kind of a lawn space, but we've got a synthetic lawn kind of initially programmed there, so that the tables and high use of vendor tents and those type of things would be on a good surface. And then as we transition to kind of the corn features, which you see in that space right there, kind of some climbers and some play equipment in there that would have a surfacing.
That has a pointer.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sorry, I meant to hand that to you earlier.
Yeah, my pen was not working very well for that.
Yeah.
So this is kind of that play feature. And with the play feature, we want that to be, or what the thought was with the group was that is something that you don't see in your other parks around the community. It's more of a unique element that's a destination for people in town, but it's also something that people that are in the Corn Palace for a wrestling tournament or things like that, they feel like they can take a break, come out, let the kids run around on that a little bit, climb, and then go back in. Visitors can, and tourists as they're coming through, it maybe extends their stay a little bit in the area because they can stretch legs and let kids kind of take advantage of that. So.
Can we ask as we go on?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the turf will be in where the scoreboard used to be, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
And then we'd have like grill grass in the other areas?
Correct. Yep. So then as we extend to the east, you can see the parking lot. We actually, I think, flipped that orientation, so we're kind of coming in one way this direction. We got angled parking along the edges. So it maintains some parking through there, but the other thing that it does is it leaves the flexibility for food trucks and, a portable stage, a bigger stage in that space potentially for bigger events. So in this area then, we've moved kind of bikes off to the edge. They currently sit about right through here. The group felt it was important to kind of keep them within the fenced area just for security reasons, access reasons. And then this space becomes an expanded lawn area. The area below, there's a row of trees in through here that have really nicely established. Right now, there's landscape below that. There's shrub masses. We'd like to put some surfacing below that, so maybe a boardwalk or some other surfacing so that this space can go right through into this lawn area and kind of really kind of almost double what the stage open space would be. And then along this edge is kind of a larger paved space with kind of a swing element, a couple of them through here, and then a spray feature back in here. And we'll show some images as we go forward. So some of the precedent images that we shared as we were kind of planning and brainstorming with the committee, this is one example of kind of that unique play element. So this is actually a wood structure that a company named, I believe it's Earthscapes, they design, fabricate, and make. So, it's really kind of imaginative play where it's a climber, but it's also kind of this immersive thing. We talked about, building some type of platform or stage off of these so that for small performances or library programming in that space, it would be a nice setting for that as well. So it kind of gives you a visual, whether it's this or there's the traditional playground companies can do custom features too and themed. So, but that would be our goal, is to have it be something that catches your attention and is unique. A few of the other specialty elements. So that the swings that I mentioned, these are kind of fixed arm swings that you're starting to see become popular. They kind of create a nice edge. And especially if combined with some shading over the top, both good for adults and for kids. And then the spray element in the back, that's something that we really want to have kind of multi-purpose as well. So this company here has spray features that have these kind of canopies on the top. So it provides a little bit of shade. It's also kind of a visual too, so if you're looking for this as a parent or a visitor, you kind of see it in the back of that plaza space, and it kind of invites you to go check it out and explore a little bit. So that's the intent with that piece. Low flow, so it's more misting and spraying versus a downpour. So tourists and people that are coming and going from the Corn Palace, your kids aren't drenched when they're out there. They're just refreshed, maybe. And then the boardwalk piece, depending on how it gets detailed, just giving a visual of how that might be. But it's more, I guess, in our thoughts with it, it was more consistently through that space, so you could have seating or stand-up tables below those trees along that
And the committee had
edge.
talked about, too, it would give us more access to the shade that's already developed from those trees there, too,
Right.
for events that are going on. 'Cause
Yep.
there's always people sitting on those benches that are really in front of the trees now.
Right. So some of the feedback when we came back the second time, met with the committee, just the orientation, keeping it clear on the Main Street side for events, that small stage for programming, kind of built into the kids' features, shade canopies. Those got added from the previous concept that you saw, some fabric shade canopies in that lawn, flexibility, the efficient water play, maintaining a portion of the parking lot, and then the location of the bike and the
And I know-
repair station.
I know we talked about this with one of the previous plaza phases, but to do a full splash park, you actually have to treat it like a pool. So they're recirculating the water, you're testing and treating it. The way these are designed is so that you're not doing that. You're
Right.
just using the potable water, so a little bit different.
So this is kind of the final concept where we landed, just to kind of give you some visuals. So you can really start to see here that front entrance plaza space, how all of this, the kids zone here and then the picnic area all kind of reads as one kind of unified space. So there's some nice flexibility there. There is stormwater in the that we have to deal with in here. There's an inlet that exists somewhere in here and one that exists here. So we're kind of capturing those in this lawn area and then within this kind of mass of trees and shrubs in through there to kind of moving some of that a little bit. And then you can see the edge that those fixed arm swings kind of create, that small lawn area for activities that could be happening off of a performance. And then this kind of landmark with the spray features down on the far end.
Can you go back just real quick? So there on the play area towards the front, you've got you said that mass of trees. Are people going to be able to see to the stage from that spot?
It depends on, as the trees mature, you would be able to see through them. Yes, but I would picture like an aspen grove or something in there, because what we're trying to do with it is when the sun is, to the west, we're trying to throw some shade into this bigger and large pavement area there. That's kind of what we were trying to accomplish with it. Now, like as these grow up, I imagine we're like 6-8 foot spacing on those trunks, so you can kind of see through it. But there will be some grow in period there with that. So this shows really well kind of that front entry plaza, kind of that expanded space. So you can see for parades or activities, you could set tents up in through there or just overflow seating. It really gives, this space kind of gives an entry to the plaza where this is your gateway piece right through there. So some signage here that could advertise, seasonal events at the Corn Palace where we can hang banners on a structure there, and then some of the interpretive and historical type of signage in that front plaza space. Just kind of a rotated view. You can see, the playground equipment's fairly, it's not a big system, but it's a nice modest piece where, we're trying to give parents 15 minutes, of time in that space or so.
We should point out, too, we did have representatives from Bradley's Restaurant that participated, and they even talked about like a gate with a step down from their seating, outdoor restaurant seating area, so people could easily get back and forth as well.
So this really shows that boardwalk piece. We'll have a little bit. It's not going to be as easy as it looks there because there's a little bit of elevation change there. So probably on the back side, we would maybe have a small step up to kind of make that grade work through there. We've got to get it surveyed and final design and figured out. But this is kind of the intent there. So you can see how as these trees continue to mature, we've got, the stand-up seating along that edge and kind of activity happening back in behind.
I know one thing we heard from the committee a lot is more shade and more seating, so you'll also see like some of the seat walls by the shaded areas too, to try to address that.
Yeah, and this kind of just gives a view to the back. So, again, those misting structures really kind of draw your eye down. If we use some colorful, canopies to them, could bring visitors back into that space. And then if the food trucks, end up in this space, we wouldn't have the diagonal parking for events. They would just park along these edges, and then you'd have, this opening on the alleyway to kind of come back in here and circulate and return back into the event space.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Has there been any discussion on a need for restrooms? If there's all these people and, especially if the Corn Palace is closed, what are they going to do? Invade Bradley's and say, we're just here to use your restroom? I mean, if there's going to be that much activity in the plaza, is there a need for them?
I would say typically when there's obviously events going on downtown, the Corn Palace is open, and then during the summer, they're open 7 days a week, and they have extended hours. The times when we wouldn't have the Corn Palace available would be, like right now, they're closed on Sundays, but otherwise they're open Monday through Saturday.
And you don't expect any events to be promoted in the plaza without the Corn Palace being open?
Well, it's considered part of the Corn Palace property, so I would assume that if, like before, if we programmed something into the plaza, the Corn Palace was involved with that. So I would assume we'd have staff here, we would have the building open, yes. Yeah. They've had summer events where other people have held events out there, and Corn Palace staff is available during those events with the building open. Yeah, and that's a good point too. Like when we have festival or pre-Sturgis party, we bring in porta potties throughout the event space.
Only got one thing. Closed in the winter, or do you have a plan for snow removal, or it doesn't look very snow removal friendly?
I mean, so I think in the dead of winter, when we get those winters where we've got 2 feet of snow on the ground, it's probably just access for the most part. But we did talk, we did talk about holiday lighting, Christmas, type of events in that space. So I think it's really weather dependent as far as whether or not it would accommodate.
I believe now they will clear the sidewalks within the plaza. I don't know if they do all spaces, but they do the sidewalks in the plaza. I would assume, Kevin, do we remove snow off park equipment elsewhere in town?
We do not. And you think about a rubber surface or a board-in-place surface, or even a grass area, we don't go out and clear the snow off of those.
Do we take we do like the shade structures down at the ball fields, we take those canvas?
They are down over the winter months, yes.
So we would do the same thing, I assume, here.
Yeah.
I presume so.
Does that misting feature work right now, Joe?
Yes. We turn it off in the winter, but yeah, they blow it out when they blow out the sprinkler system, but it runs all summer. There's people always pushing the button using it.
Okay, that was going to be my question, as I'm
I use
assuming
it
people and
sometimes.
kids like to use that. I love the idea of incorporating children's activities here, because it's tough for them to come to the palace and appreciate the great murals where they can jump around and have fun and get off some energy. The other question I've got is there any way that we can maybe take a look to see how that playground or the play equipment for the kids could tie in with the Corn Palace? Something ag-related or whatever it is, combine or a...
It is, the one that he's talking about is the shape of a corn cob, right there, that Stephanie's circling.
Oh.
So it's a big corn
Yeah.
cob.
Okay.
In the committee meetings, these were
Yep.
shown as like a corn cob. These were like corn stalks that you could climb
And
on.
then the little chairs are kernels.
And then those they're like precast concrete were done to look like corn kernels. So they were thinking something themey like that.
Yeah. And it's probably not the final concept yet, but
Right.
definitely it would be themed, whatever goes. Yeah, for sure, for sure.
10,000 pounds.
So cost-wise, we did a cost estimate, kind of see where we're standing with it. So broken out by parts, because we knew that fundraising was going to be a part of this. So if you look at that expanded entry plaza, we're anticipating, 150,000, or 120, 150,000 on that front piece. The playground itself, those features can be costly to get the high custom wood ones. We're looking $450 to $550 on those. Excuse me. Yeah, we're showing, that's including, and that was after some initial conversations with that vendor. They really don't want to commit to anything until you've got a final design and we have worked with them. So we were kind of we've got a placeholder in there, what we think is a good number to hold that. So that includes the climber, the kernels, the climbing elements. I think we've got the shade structures kind of lumped into some of that number as well. The synthetic turf on that square footage, we're about 100,000, maybe 120. The bench swings along that edge are about another 120,000. That boardwalk feature below, that's probably, again, another 75 to 100,000, and then the water feature on the back, 2 to 240. And then everything else kind of making up, we've got removals, we've got some paving that we really couldn't tie in with any specific project, some utilities with the storm sewer and water service and landscape there. So looking at a project up to 1.6 million is kind of what we're anticipating. So, any last questions from the group?
I think one thing I mentioned at the beginning, I couldn't remember if it was going to go through on this presentation or not, but it was anticipated it would take 2025 to get the design done, probably not ready for a bid till fall or spring of 26. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, probably.
Construction in 26. So really you would have, as I said earlier, we did have some money budgeted in 24 and 25, but you would have 26 also to carry that forward. Just for the public's general information, for this project and other plaza projects, we've used the entertainment tax fund to pay for those community improvements, other than utility improvements that we've done in the past. So that's what this would be proposed from if council decides to move forward. I did also say in my staff report for this agenda item, I think just having features like that, like are shown here, that are really community-based features are going to be an improvement for our community. We could also seek some outside sponsorship for some of these items, and I would like to have the opportunity to do that too if council moves forward with the project.
Stephanie, when you first showed this plan to me, you had actually some pictures of what those seating, those corn kernel seating would look like, and what the those climbing pieces were that would be are they in the shape of kernels too? I'm trying to remember. But you had some really great pictures of, some of those things, and I didn't see
So these ones, well, we didn't actually have pictures of the corn stalks.
stalks,
We just said
corn
that
stalks, yeah.
these
Yeah.
climbing features would be, or what you see on the image is corn stalks, and then the fish, what you see on the image is actually the corn cob, whatever that design ends up being. We did have a picture in that first concept of the precast seating, but I don't have that on here.
But the thought would be that they would be kind of in the shape of a kernel.
It looked like a kernel on the schematic, not that that's the final, but.
No, but it was an
Yep.
idea. I just think that was really kind of gave you some idea of what the thought process was. And then even the misting feature was born kind of a shape, right?
No, those were always just those kind of fan shaped, yep. Lyle, you can maybe correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think in the committee discussions, it was also that the water feature, we'd have the ability to turn it off if we had events going on that you didn't want it on, and then you would still have the shade. And then they could potentially control whether they wanted it to mist them or rain on them.
Yeah, there's different controls for it, and then you can set the hours of operation and everything with it as well, so.
I had a question on the stage part of it. I get complaints on, 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night in August when it's 95 to 100 degrees outside. The sun blaring down on them, the people, the performers, it's pretty tough on them without having a lot of shade there.
Yeah, we had that on here too. That came up quite a bit. Yeah, shade for current stage. That was brought up by a lot of people in the planning session too, and you can explain what you told us, but
Yeah, you know, the only option there really would be to either bring something down on the front, which wouldn't be good for acoustics on the stage, or to kind of get something established straight to the west. And, you know, I think the goal ultimately is some of those trees kind of behind the shade structure, the existing one, start to gain some maturity, and when that sun is dropping low in the west, that we're starting to cut that sunlight off. I know that's not a great answer for immediate kind of fix to those issues.
we heard it too. So it was brought up. They even talked, is there any way to do something off the stage, and it still just doesn't cast the shade where you need it.
Stephanie, you had said that some money had been set aside the last couple of years. How much?
We had $103,000 budgeted in '24, and we have $405,000 budgeted in 2025. You do have some additional cash within the entertainment tax fund that I could bring that back for council review, but then you would also have, since it's not going to be constructed in '25, you could budget that same 405 again in '26.
So what are you going to make that corn cob out of?
So the image that you saw, that vendor with the fish, it's actually, it's a wood plank. Yeah, so there's weathering that can occur, and you get wear marks on it, but before we went down the road with that and finalized kind of that direction, we would want to make sure that we get all the maintenance information in front of you guys and get you some information as far as seeing how it ages over time and things like that. But they do have installations that are out there that are 10 years old plus that we could reach out and get some of that information from them on.
Even if it ended up being a more traditional type, I think just having something unique that you can't find elsewhere in parks was kind of the goal.
Right.
So it's even I'm thinking of when my children were young, and you go from park to park to see the different features, like you liked the carriage one, and you liked the the one with the horse carriage over by DW, and just having something different to do. Any other questions of Lyle?
We're not voting on this. This is just a presentation,
This is just
right?
presentation. If council wants to move forward, what we would need to do is bring back a design agreement to a meeting in February, along with that proposed how we would pay for the budget. So.
So
I mean, I
do we
feel
want, I'm thinking she's looking for direction from the council of what,
I feel like this has been
Thank
part
you,
of our
Mayor.
discussion for a long time. This has been a long-range goal to continue to develop that space. I'm trying to think who it was that I was just talking to not very long ago, and they commented that it was too bad. It was someone who visited the Corn Palace, not someone who lived here, and they said, it's too bad that you don't still have that area for the kids to go through. They had visited when Mrs. Wheaty's class had done the children's museum up there. And they said, then the next time we came, that wasn't there. And I said, well, just don't stop coming, because we have a plan, and there's going to be some fun things for kids to do. And I think that really, I mean, if we want it to be a family destination and we want it to be a place where people come and they spend more time, I think that this is exactly the kind of thing that we need to invest in to make this just such a fun space, not just for visitors, but for us, for all of us.
I just think of all the Main Street events that we have that are programmed throughout the summer, at least once a month, all summer. And I mean, the street's packed down there when we have those things going on. So it would be an added benefit for those events as well.
so what direction do we want to go?
I would encourage you, Stephanie, to continue to set aside and save money so that when we do it, it's not like, oh my God, we should have
Yep.
We don't have the money, we should, or we can find it, but, you know, but. So I'd encourage you to keep setting money aside.
I will say, I don't want to go too far into this either, but I did have a service club reach out to me that might be interested in assisting, and I'm hoping that we could, if council decides you want to move forward with this process, I would like to make that same presentation to others and see what other opportunities there might be for sponsorship.
So any changes you would like the architect to make?
Or just bring back a design contract and, okay.
Not just one idea.
Is there something you don't like about this one?
It won't hurt my feelings.
What are you thinking?
I just don't like having one choice. I think we should have a couple different choices for us to see. He's not going to draw, I'm sure he's not going to draw just one and say, there it is.
Well, but honestly, if you look at the process, that's kind of what the committee did. The committee was presented a couple different variations of what to include, and we had a couple city council members on there to narrow it down to that final schematic. It won't look exactly like this, just like if you look at that first planning concept that we did for the plaza as a whole. I mean, it's pretty close, actually, but there are some well, not a whole lot, is there, other than the scoreboard? We're pretty close to where we...
Yeah, could you email us the other variations so we could send them to
Well, you saw it right
Mr.
here.
Bathke, and then, that's not all the variations. There's like 5 or 6, oh, there it is, yeah.
That was the concept planning with the group involved.
Yeah, so basically it was, once we found where the parks kind of wanted to fit, we were really looking at what the surfacing and treatment was in this, if this was, paved with a tree canopy over the top of it, or if it was that open lawn space. And then kind of, if or where the water feature, and this one here has canopies in that central piece. So those would be those shade canopies versus kind of a tree massing in there for that shade and separation a little bit. So
I do still think I like the canopy feature more than the tree structure, just for the ease of being able to move it up and down, or like take it up and down as needed throughout the seasons.
Make that one of your options.
Can do.
All right.
I really, I just am such a fan of this. I just want to point it out. I just love how you've taken that arc of the existing pergola area and kind of made that continue on through so that it looks, it looks like it was part of the master plan from the beginning. And of course, maybe in your mind it was, but I love how it looks like it's not an afterthought. It's not something that looks like it was, oh, now we have this space, what are we going to do? But it looks all like it really is cohesive and it goes together and it's great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next. Discussion on Corn Palace seat replacement. I will start with this. So I was going to have the original sales rep from Hussey here, but he said he's going to bring a regional sales rep next time. And then I talked with Irwin Seating, based on the recommendation from Jeff Logan. I think they're going to be dropping a sample and shipping it to us this week, hopefully. And then they're going to have a cup holder. I'm not really sure what the price difference is. He hasn't gotten us one yet. The only difference is like their seat that would kind of compare sticks out quite a bit farther. We'd lose 3 to 4 inches, which may affect your legroom. But the benefit is they have cup holders that are flexy. So if you run them with your kneecap, you don't break your knee or the cup holder. So I guess, so anyway, so next city council, I think it's February 3rd, we're going to have both reps from both companies be here to discuss both options, which will lead into our next one, which we're going to talk about. So does anyone want to ask about Corn Palace seats before we move on to the next one?
And they will have an example of each one here.
I sure hope so. They said they can get them fast, but I mean, we only have 2 weeks really. I think, Joe, do you remember when he said he was going to be able to? We just got an email that says he's going to try to ship them like this week, I think, but.
Yeah, because we told them they needed to be here a week before our next council meeting. I
And then,
believe is what we
yeah.
told him.
I think he's going to send 2 chairs, so we have a same.
And Mayor, I also think you said, which is important for item number 13, both representatives have chairs on the publicly bid contract.
Yes.
So you could purchase either one without having to go through the full year-long design and bid process, so.
Oh, and then.
Make sure we pointed that out too.
Yep, and then Irwin is an American-made company, and I think they said they could get them in 8 weeks instead of the other one where they have a lead time of 22 weeks, which is quite a bit faster. Now, and then trade-off, the Sioux Falls company, those guys like grew up in Ethan, like the ones that work there, so it's a local company.
Just to clarify.
Emery?
Well,
Okay,
the company is not based out of East.
No, the guys that work there.
The sales rep is
Yes.
from out of the Sioux Falls office. The company is out of Rhode Island.
Yep. But they said they both played in the Corn Palace as kids, and they all have like an emotional attachment. But the Sioux Falls company would also be the ones installing it. The Irwin, they would have to bring someone from like the Kansas area. So it depends on how close you want your installation rep, but.
And
you
the
know.
reason why that's important, that they're both on publicly bid contracts. If council decides that you want to move forward with replacing seats with one or the other, then number 13 would be relevant regardless of which manufacturer you choose.
Yes. So that's pretty much it, I guess. I thought it was going to have more of a presentation, so we put it on, but we changed things. Next week, next city council will be fun. We got 2 chair people battling for business, so. In one of the chairs. All right, next one. Action to approve Agreement A 2025-13 Corn Palace Railings and ADA Seating Architectural Services with Civarella Design. So I can start with this too, unless Joe wants. How about Mr. Schrader? Why don't you start?
All right. Mr. Mayor and Council, the proposed agreement will provide architectural design services for adding railings and ADA seating on the west side of the Corn Palace. The documents would provide a biddable project for a contractor and also provide the allowable dimensions for the installation of new seats. Project cost for the railings and ADA upgrades is currently estimated to be around $60,000 plus an additional $10,000, which is estimated for bidding and construction phase services with Civarella Design Group if you choose to move forward. So with that, I have no issue with the agreement. The lump sum fee is $9,700, and I will open it up to any questions.
Would you put the rails up if we replace the seats? Because you need a wider alleyway, right?
Correct. This only happens if you replace the seats, in my opinion, with the Sourcewell or publicly bid-approved contract.
Understanding that adding the railings and the wider
Aisles.
walkways means you lose, I think it was 200 seats that the mayor showed at the last.
Yeah, depending on which option you go to. With the regular option, you'd lose 160 seats. I think the other one's quite a bit more.
Joe, if we put the seats in, are we required, we have to be handicapped, the rails have to go in? That's how I understood it.
Yeah, whenever you're making an update to a public building, you're supposed to bring it up to the highest ADA standard possible.
Yeah, so we looked at this with the architect, and basically, if we could put, was it 3 wheelchair access points with companion spots on each of the top of the second section? I believe that's what it was.
I want to say, if I remember right, the requirement for how many seats we have is 16.
14.
14.
Mm-hmm.
And he thinks we can get to that with a couple mixed-use spaces.
Yep, so you would take, if you were in a wheelchair, you would take the elevator up, you'd go to the second floor around each end, and then where you would go through, that's where we would build up those levels off to the side, so then anyone in wheelchair access could have a better vantage point. Armory and on the other side, yep. So right when you scooch through that little walkway, then we would build that up. I think what he said, like aluminum, like a.
It'd be, basically, yeah, it'd be built up, I don't want to say scaffolding type, but it would be built up with a level.
Platform.
Floored out, yeah, platform, thank you.
That sounds nice.
Yes.
And are all of these chairs, are they the wider ones that are we only looking at those that are the wider, the 20, 21?
So that will be a different, that will be different. So basically what he's going to do, what this plan would do is if you approve it, it will basically just give us the widths.
Okay.
And then the chair company will know what widths, and then they will decide how much can fit there based on what you guys would choose at the next meeting. So the only reason you would want to approve this is if you're for sure going to choose one of the other chair people, either at the next meeting or for some reason at a different meeting after that. So basically, all this is doing is giving the scope of the project for the chair people to have a biddable project and size and width.
And I feel and what I've been hearing is that I think the council is definitely looking for an improvement of those chairs, and I know the public is voicing their opinions very strongly to update the chairs. So, and I also think that we need to consider a railing system. No matter what we do in the Corn Palace, we need to get ourselves updated a little bit on access and ability to go up and down on those areas. So I think it's a good thing for us to move forward with this design anyway. So with that being said, I'll approve a motion agreement with Silverella Design.
Okay, we got a motion by Mr. Barrington.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Turks. Okay, any further discussion? Does anyone in the audience, would they like to speak about that? Okey dokey, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Discussion on preliminary design with the Schemmer Associates Inc. for an estimated Corn Palace remodeling project with an estimated budget of $12 million. I think we'll start with the council. Maybe Kevin can start with this since it was, you got the contract with Schemmer.
Well, there's been a lot of talk about needing some floor, it's not basketball space, it's more floor space. Our boilers and our heating and everything, I think we got probably $3-4 million worth of repairs to replace all that stuff with. Our locker rooms need attention. We need two one way in, one way out of the locker rooms on two separate sides. That site just needs a lot of improvement. And I think that Schimmer has come up with a couple of good plans that he wants to show us tonight. Maybe we should just have him go ahead and demonstrate the plans that he wants to show it to us. And ask any questions.
And with that, we will welcome you to the stage.
I think the one thing too, Kevin, as he's working his way up here, Rob, is the dollar value that we've looked at. Over the years, we've talked about a lot of remodels and revisions of the Corn Palace, and the numbers that we've always talked about before were obviously much larger than this current number that we have been discussing. So I think that's a big positive for the community to take a look at, or hopefully wrap their arms around the fact of the number before from 40 to 45 million to the vault statement that I've seen on several social medias of 60 million is not part of this plot plan. It is definitely a number that is more attainable and definitely something that the community can hopefully get behind and support because of what we've been doing. So I really have been pleased with what I've been hearing from the people that have been putting things together, that number being more around that 12 to maybe 15 tops kind of number, which is just, I think, just a little more tolerable for what our community needs.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commission. My name is Robin Miller. I'm with Schemmer Associates from Sioux Falls. Our headquarters is in Omaha. We've been working with the city for decades now. If you remember us, we go way back. The mayor was showing me a picture of me about 20 years ago on a proposal.
I do have a 2008
Yeah,
picture of Robin.
I look roughly this, a little better back then, sorry. But with more experience, we've enjoyed working with the city for a long time now. Currently have the high school going on. We've finished some projects on the recreational center, had advised on several projects of yours that over the years have been just good experience for us, and we love working with you. So back in 1922, we submitted a proposal that was a study for remodeling the Corn Palace that you were discussing. On these walls, we had eventually over 7 different concepts, different ways of looking at seating and rearranging the Corn Palace. We had met with over 40 different people. We had multiple meetings with the public and gave them an opportunity to come in and also get their feedback. And ultimately, we were tasked with coming up with 3 different concepts. Out of the 7 that we had here, we developed what we called a good, better, best. And that was somewhere in the middle of COVID, or as COVID was kicking in, that's when our report came out. So we just hated the idea of that thing just languishing. So somewhere along the line, we said, let's just get, if you've been out in the Corn Palace, you'll see some murals across the wall. That kind of depicts, as best we could, the process we went through. We've scanned this entire building now. We have not put that into a CAD documents, but we have it entirely scanned and have a decent concept now of what you have to work with. Our good, better, best options, though, ran in those high prices where they might have been up in the 60 million range for the best one in today's dollars. So as we started rediscussing this project, the concept came up, well, could we do this in phases? Or do we even have to do it in phases? Is there something we can do now that would enhance the Corn Palace? And to me, and I think as we've discussed, the way to attack this project is the east portion of the existing Corn Palace from the stage moving east. We basically took our initial concept B, the better plan, and we redacted quite a bit of the fluff out of the project, if I can call it that, from the enhancements out of it, the extra parts. And we were only looking at a part of option B. So where you see all these articulated seats on this particular plan, they're focused in on one main basketball court. Underneath those first set of seats to the right of that basketball court would be another basketball court. So you just doubled your event space on the main floor. And then where we show those upper seats, if that makes sense, behind the mayor's head, that's an upper section. In this drawing, we had shown them as soft seats, as fixed, much like what you're talking about putting in the other side now. But under some discussions, we thought maybe we can make those retractable bleachers and again gain another almost the same size as what you have now on your main floor. You'd gain all that upper level space for events. We also then could, because we'd match that upper floor with your second level of the rest of the Corn Palace, we could connect across the north and the south sides of your basketball court and connect essentially a common loop all the way around on the second floor. So this was a early concept of what we were thinking of, what might need to happen, might need to be done. We've talked a little bit more about some of the options now of, we think we'd get basically net results of about 15,000 square feet of event floor, or about 17,500 seats across the two levels. Our goal is to provide 4 locker rooms, training room, referee spaces, green room, restrooms, exits, everything that's needed per code. Together with that, we've talked about deferred maintenance on the building, so you've already obtained some pricing from some contractors. We'd incorporate or work with them to be able to maybe incorporate them into this project. And we're to the point where we haven't got to where we know exactly what they were proposing. Is it designed for the addition to the building, or was it designed for the building as it is? So we need to go forward in the study of the concept in order to be able to refine our pricing or the estimate for the project. But we do know that you need new air handlers, chillers, boilers, pumps, and at the same time redo the freight elevator. So we had discussion, if you're rebuilding the freight elevator, perhaps we'd take that up to the second level as well, get you freight access to first and second floor. In this project, when we do demolition, we'd be taking the project down from your proscenium open or the stage and everything east. So there's a period of time you'd be without lockers and without mechanical electrical, that big mechanical room that's at the end of the stage. So we need to come up with a couple concepts, and that's what we're looking for next. Is we've developed 2 ideas. Right now we're leaning towards the one that would build the new mechanical equipment room and a couple locker rooms to the north of where the addition would go. And the other one is to find a way to build it within the addition, so to do a remodel and a rebuild. I think a remodel and a rebuild with everything inside the same footprint would be less money, but I'm afraid it's more downtime. So our study would be prepared to be able to give you that plan together with another one that has a new mechanical equipment room first with less downtime, and you'd be able to explore the cost or the cost-benefit ratios of both of those. So what we're proposing today is just to work through the 2 concepts to be able to get to one common denominator that you're all comfortable with for what we've been told and what we think is a reasonable budget of $12 million.
How many square feet would this add to the floor space?
I'm afraid you were going to say that. It's the 15,000 usable floor space
total, or that's what it would be,
Yes.
that's what you would add?
That's the usable floor space. Let me see if I
I think
have.
right now we have 9,800, is that right?
Hang on. I've got too many.
I'm almost certain it's 9,800.
Shoot, I might not have.
Joe, what's a basketball court? You're a ref.
Yeah, and I didn't bring all of that extra information today. I've had so much paper floating around, I didn't bring that one.
No. Yeah. 50.
Right, just the court. Yeah,
Yep, 94 by 50.
yep. So you'd be, let me see if I can go through these numbers again. You'd basically double your main floor space. You'd add 1,200 retractable seats. On the second level event space, you would have 550 roughly retractable seats within that area. So if you had all those seats out, you'd have about 1,750. You would net about 15,000 square feet of event floor space when you're done. That would be including what you have now plus the additions.
Robin, talk about what we gain in terms of seating capacity.
This just about doubles it.
And you did talk about how a way that we could make it so that if we wanted it to be the same amount of seating that we currently have, we could do that. And then when needed, we could pull out other ones. So do you want to talk just a little bit about that?
Right. What this drawing is showing is all the seats pulled out, if that makes sense. So, do we have that pointer? Lyle, did you take that?
Yeah, he kept it, he's taking it home.
I know. Which one is it now? Come on, red button? Okay. Oh, it's not, it's bouncing off the white, I bet. Oh, there it is. Okay, this is where the basketball court is underneath all of these seats. So that's that 1,200 plus retractable seats. And when this pulls back, these seats will pull back to a wall right there. And this becomes your main floor of usable space for an event. If we pull these seats out, they just cover up the one basketball court. Behind these seats and underneath what we're showing here is where we can put all your lockers, restrooms, mechanical equipment. And then this is actually showing the upper level, so this is second floor. So the second floor level can connect all the way around the building. And these would be retractable seats under our new concept for roughly 550 seats. So you gain an upper level darts and, any kind of events you'd like to have up there. This also extends your exhibit space on the inside, almost doubles that. So this is you could almost call this, if I were to go back to the old study, this would be phase one of the old study. This in and of itself is a project and complete, so you could stop there or you could continue down the road someday and look at the rest of it.
And it reaches a lot of the goals that we had set. I mean, you don't have to spend 40 or 50 million to get a lot of the benefits that we really had. Well, when it gets down to it.
Exactly. Like what you're talking about now, replacing seats. I mean, our goal was to do something like this with plush seats here and then redo all of this. So that was another major interior renovation, phasing with downtime. So this is relatively easy to do because there's a line right there. That's the opening for your proscenium or your stage. And if I think the option for this, I'm not the contractor, but I believe the way we would do this is fill that hole, the stage opening with cement block. That would allow us to take the rest of the building down without disruption, with minor disruption, other than the mechanical equipment. But we can take the rest of the building down and rebuild it. Once it's almost complete, then open up that wall and then get both halves of the building to come back together again. So it creates for a really nice line to distinguish between new construction and existing construction. Then our main goal and one of the strategies will be to how do we get the mechanical systems rebuilt, replaced with minimal amount of downtime. So that's why we believe we've got to go through two concept options. Do I build the Do we design, one of the ideas is to put a new mechanical room up here and maybe a couple locker rooms and maybe even a loading area that connects this freight elevator into an interior space. So now you can work interior from the lower level underneath the Corn Palace or underneath the City Hall into the Corn Palace. And if we're going to do that, then another option is if this goes up another floor and we could get from this freight elevator onto this level, we can connect both floors with our freight elevator and get big equipment up and down. So those are variations on a theme, but one of those variations is to have additional construction across this side of the building. We could put that up first and get your mechanical system up and operating much faster, I think, than getting it built within this footprint.
And I know that another thing that people will be concerned about is what do we do without a stage?
Correct. So I know from our original study, we looked at the options, and we really feel like most of the events that come in now bring their own stages. Many of them do, and they'll want to, sometimes we're set up, our study showed that we can be set up so you could have a stage on the floor, you could have stages on the end, and you've got variations on a theme on how they want to set up. So, but we would lose the raised stage, that you'd be talking about them bringing in their own stages. You might store a stage in the lower level, which is another reason why to get that freight elevator connected.
What do we do with the old blower units that are like behind the concession stand? Are those still going to be needed?
Great. We're going to have a discussion with our mechanical engineers right away. They'll be back. We've scanned it all. They looked at it and have an initial concept, but that was as we were remodeling the entire Corn Palace, so they need to rethink in terms of what do we do with that equipment? Can we use it? Do we totally replace it? Will it be empty underneath there for more storage? And will we put the new blowers in the addition? So my mind as an architect, I'll push my engineers to at least consider putting the blower units underneath in here somewhere and connecting to what's already, you've got some big tunnels underneath this existing basketball court. So if we can extend them, instead of blowing more or less from west to east, we might now blow from east to west when in the new remodel. But I'm not here to talk about how to do the mechanical yet. That's down the road. It's time to start thinking about it, but I don't have those engineers' ideas yet.
You know, we kind of understand that we got to put some money into our infrastructure, or HVAC. And when I was walking in tonight, Johnson Control was just coming out. So I just thought, got problems? And he says, whoo, that system needs some work.
Yes.
And he said one of the blowers is down. He said they can only use it on major events. Bearings are out. You know, plus the heating and air are not up to par. So, I mean, we understand we have to sit, either way, we're going to have to do some upkeep in the Corn Palace. And, you know, if that's going to be, you know, $5,000, if that's what it is, or $5 million, if that's what it is.
Do that.
We'll take $5,000.
Yeah.
You know, so.
That's a closer number, your $5 million. It's, you've had some early estimates or
Yeah.
numbers from people, and we need
It's
to
a scary
integrate-
number for
Yep.
heating and air, but it's, you know, if the 12 million's on track, you know, I think it's definitely worth looking into, to updating on the Corn Palace and getting it up to our standards is what I would call.
And I look at this as, so we're playing with some options, so, you know, option A will be one idea of a cost, and option B will be another dollar figure for you to take a look at what's to your advantage. That's part of our goal, is to work with the 12 million, see what we can do with that, and then find out what are the ramifications or variables up or down from that with what you determine to do within a year or two. I would say we could be ready for construction again like in 20, probably, where are we now, 25, 27 is probably more likely. If you really pushed and you had the money, you could be doing it in the fall of 26, but I think you're looking at the soonest, if you're talking financing and budgeting, in 27. And about a 2-year construction period.
And we've always talked about, we need extra floor space. I mean, like the rodeo, all the, you know, if they put that in the middle there, they could add twice as many, they sold all the tables, you know, concerts, they could sell more tables. I mean, it's not just for athletics, it's for the whole concept of everything that they'd want to do in the Corn Palace. They could have shows and outdoor shows, they could have dart tournaments, pool tournaments. They used to have the state wrestling tournament here until the Corn Palace got so small, and that brings thousands of people to town for that. I mean, there's a lot of different things we could do, and I think we need, that area of the Corn Palace is just needs so much maintenance and work done to it that has been neglected for years, that sooner or later, we're going to have to do it or never do it ever. And when we got bids before for, 40, 50, 60 million, $12 million is a lot of money, but I think for what we're going to get out of it, I think it's going to benefit everybody. I think it's going to be a good benefit for the Corn Palace and for the community.
If you consider the different seating options you'll have now, you'll have your existing, what I call soft seats, you probably do too. On this side, we're looking at doing retractable bleachers, the options, just regular bleachers or bleachers with seats. We're doing some fold-down seats now at the high school, so those you'll get to see an option of how those will work coming up pretty soon this summer. So we'd price probably the difference of regular bleachers or seats, retractable seats on the bleachers, and then these are considerably steeper seating arrangements, and our reason for doing that is we get better sight lines. So you have better sight lines from the addition down to the basketball court and over the people in front of you than you will from this side. This was always set up, I think, for more concerts. So it's a great side to have for concerts with somebody on a raised stage, on even maybe way back there. Whereas this is better sight lines for a basketball game. You get a lot of options, a variety of seating, and different ways you'll be able to set your floor areas up now under this revised plan.
I will jump in here and say I did talk to someone that's involved with state wrestling, and there's basically not a chance we'll ever get it back here. They want like 50,000 square feet, and then I also talked to darts and pool, and they said we're nowhere, even if we did this, we'd still be nowhere near. Now, that doesn't mean we can't do a regional tournament, but state is probably never going to be an option.
We can always try.
One thing, I thought you started out, Kevin, you said we weren't after basketball space, but then you said we're adding a gym.
Another basketball court. I'm sorry.
So either we're after it or we're not. And where I'm going with that is, I see some people in business out here and they talk about how they can't recruit. I don't care what we really do with the Corn Palace at this point. I don't know how we landed on this $12 million number, and I'm not going to go into all the details. I've heard about it, but I think personally, we do the maintenance and some smaller things. And if I think Roger would back me up on this, if he's going to recruit somebody to Mitchell, they don't care if we have another basketball court in the Corn Palace. They want something for their employees and their children to do. To me, it leads us to an indoor sports practice facility. And spending our money there, to me, is better spent than spending, I don't know how we got to 12 million, if you were told to keep it there, and you've been at this a long time, sir. A long time.
We're trying to keep it there.
Yeah. And I mean, and you've been getting paid for studies and studies, and I'm ready to do something. I want to be clear on that, but I want to be careful that we don't do this, and it's not public profitable. It's public profitable, but we will never operate it at a profit because we're doubling the size of it, and it's a money pit. I mean, anybody that thinks it's not money pit, it's gone. Could you get more things? Absolutely, I'll give you that. One thing I'd say, the door isn't even big enough to get anything in there. If you're talking a camper show, have you thought of that? How do we get a bigger door in there?
Yep. My thought right now is that we're going to still come in through this north side. We need to enlarge those doors. Challenge is if I can get across that floor or underneath that floor. I don't know that answer. We may need to go to I would like to see you do two docks, one at floor level and another drop dock, so that it's at the level of the semi. I'd love to see you be able to build out a little receiving area so that the garage doors are right there, and you can take things up and down from the freight elevator into a truck, or from the freight elevator into the event floor. But we're trying to match your existing floor level, so the question would be, do we match the raised basketball court level, which is raised now? So our floor slab, I think, would match across. And then you have the option to put another basketball court size in there. If you didn't at this point, we just have to deal with the east edge of your raised basketball court.
I guess the last thing I have to say is, I would definitely have to see a business plan for this, because I would never, ever jump into something like this. I mean, we got a lot of, you said they built it and they'll come. I ain't buying that. I ain't buying that at all. I mean, it's great attitude, but I just see it turning into a real money pit for the citizens of Mitchell, and I wouldn't support it right now. I'd put a new room on for some new HVAC, redo the coaches and the players back there. Keep it simple until we do something with where we're sitting, as we hear them pounding basketballs up above us.
That was going to be my next question was.
I mean, sooner or later, we got to do something with this.
Real quick, can I jump in and just talk about some Corn Palace numbers, first of all, since we finally got the last numbers in? So the Corn Palace operated this year the best it has in at least the last decade. We increased our revenue by 40%, which is pretty good, 40% in 1 year. This will be the first time, I think, on record that we've pulled back since at least 2015 where we did not need a general fund contribution. We lost $411,000 where the average loss before was around $600,000. So we reduced the deficit $200,000. Does that mean we can make money? I don't know. So my next question would be, is rentals. Are we willing to raise rental prices on something like this then? I don't know. You know, that's one thing we're going to have to take into consideration. Can you bring up those numbers too, Stephanie? Sorry to cut you off, Robin.
No, you're fine.
The numbers we talked about on what this would cost if we financed it, I think it was roughly at $1.3 million a year or something.
Hold on.
I had Stephanie make, by the way, Stephanie's the best spreadsheet maker in the world. She is very good at spreadsheets. So anyway, yeah, I mean, if you guys want to take a look at these numbers, they're pretty good.
We could stall
So-
No general fund contribution. That was one of my first goals we did in the first 6 months.
A debt service payment, if we were to do a 15.
Can you pull that on the screen if that's possible?
Well, I've got other stuff on here that
Okay,
I'm
sorry.
trying to, here.
While she's pulling that up, I think this, I mean, I'll tell you, it's funny, I haven't been mayor very long, but it all seems to, we should expand the Corn Palace, and then we need to move City Hall, and then we should just build another event center, and then it's this crazy round and round.
Yeah.
In fact, all these papers right here are all Corn Palace proposals.
Yeah.
Anyone that wants to read them. There's some really cool stuff in there.
One of our,
I got a picture of Robin from 2008.
I know it. Several of our groups that were here while we were talking about this, they're the community the hotels and the visitor bureau and I mean, everybody that has a business here in this community was really for this, not necessarily because it'll make money for you, but because it also brings in revenue to them, which I suppose is a tax dollar. But we see this as a destination place that you need to really do something to it and make a splash on it again. It's time to do that because this is getting tired. You spent, what was it, a decade ago now? You did the front, but you haven't done anything in the back. And I think when the community, what we heard from all the business communities was that you need to do something in the Corn Palace, bring in more activities and more revenue to our community. Overnight stays, restaurants, those kind of things, which is, I suppose, a tax dollar to you.
So when I reached out to who we've placed our bonds with previously, and I asked him to quote what we could currently get for municipal bonds, 3.75% is what they were currently at, and at the time I didn't know what we were talking about, so I did $15 million over 10 years would be 1.8. The thing I didn't know is I would want Toby to verify, go through our current debt service and to make sure that we're not going to jeopardize our bond rating with the late payment on there too. So that's the one caveat on there. I don't have that answer for you, but this was a higher amount at a 10-year term for bonds.
So $1.8 million a year.
If you were to do 15 million, yep, for 10 years at 3.75, which is the current rate for municipal bonds.
I will say, it's a very split thing when you think about it. part of you like says this makes no financial sense, but the entrepreneur in me says whenever someone tells me something's impossible, I just want to do it even more. But we're making a decision for a lot of people. You guys are making a decision for a lot of people, I should say.
And Mayor, the 1.2 million that you're referring to is the 20 years for the lake.
Oh, okay, yeah. We look at a lot of spreadsheets.
You know, I think that, I was looking at the financials today at the Corn Palace, and I think it's going in the right direction because the biggest thing in income improvement over last year was our rental income. So rental income means more people in town.
It was the second. The first was actually concert tickets.
Take a look. And concert tickets was the second. Rental income was, I'm just totally guessing at the number, but take a look at $200,000 plus.
Nope. So we increased 60,000. Ticket sales went up nearly 200,000.
And how much did rental income go up?
Rental income is at 112,000, and it went up from 64,000.
Yeah, it's almost doubled. You are right on the numbers on the.
Yeah, per percentage, well,
Percentages, but anyway, the rental,
not the same. It's better. on percentage.
it's almost double. So I mean, what does that mean? More events, more people in town?
More aggressive collecting.
And the concerts is really huge because there used to be 4 concerts. This year there was 2. Yeah, I mean, so, it's a huge increase, and it's because because the concert was good, promoted, and we got people there. I mean, that's the 2 things I noticed that jumped at me, but the rental income was just about double.
And I will say that we reviewed our rates for 25 at one of our recent Corn Palace Event Board meetings. And I don't know that we made huge increases to our rates, but I think one of the things that we made as a shift is to no longer eat any credit card fees on ticket sales, especially for those third-party tickets that we sell. And so I think that increase or change. And so an example would be over the holidays, we had a couple different basketball tournaments, and one of the tournaments went from a $10 ticket to a $13 ticket to cover those costs, and those extra dollars helped offset some of the costs that the Corn Palace had into the event itself. And so I do think we're making strides in the right direction. I think we still have a long ways to go till profitability. That's right, I said it. And then as we think about it, Mike, I do have a question for you. When you say that you want a sports complex or something like that with an extended basketball or another court or another offering of a court, hardwood surface, what are things that you would see different in a sports complex that the space capacity of this, if the seats were removable and pull backable, that you would not get out of that?
Turf. Real simple. Turf. We had a tennis tournament. We did, I should say that. A gentleman put on a tennis tournament this weekend. They played from 8 in the morning till 10:30 at night on one court. Couldn't invite anybody to town. It was just the local kids. So you could invite people to town if you had an indoor facility. And it comes down to turf. There's a group of people that have tried, and it always gets bogged down because it comes down to dollars. And that's where I'm at with this. I'm not against the Corn Palace adding on to it. Definitely doing the seats, fixing the HVAC. I don't like the idea of it being shut down, period. That's why I think relocating the HVAC system makes more sense to me. I will say, what does Mitchell High School pay to rent the Palace for a game? Because we might lose it. It goes against your number again. There's a good chance we'll lose the high school.
Is that all bad? Yes, I want to.
It's rental income that we won't have. That's what I'm point in saying.
But now, she'll get you, there used to be joint use, they were paying nothing, now that's been addressed. I'll let her answer that, but, so now it opens it up for outside events.
I also,
That outside double headers, outside, everybody wants to see the Colonels play here, I hope they stay here.
I do too. I don't want to chase them off. I'm saying, if we don't have a commitment from the Colonels and UW, I think it becomes very hard to stick that kind of money into another facility.
Then you go get other events that are profitable.
DW's not going to go anywhere. They have nowhere to go.
Right now.
I mean,
They have nowhere to build out there.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
if,
really.
if I remember
You ever
correctly,
heard of land acquisition? There's all kinds of land available, so you can just pay for it.
Knock houses
I think
down or what?
$6,000 was the number for, if you don't include ticketing or any of the percentage of tickets, just straight fee was $6,000 that MHS paid to the Corn Palace for the previous year.
That's how much they paid for rental, you mean? Or that's for
Without-
fees?
We get a percentage of the ticketing,
Mm-hmm.
and so without that number included in there, it was $6,000.
Yep. Yeah. It's a very small number.
Can I also?
But it does leave you open for some more weekends to.
I could also propose, if you think in terms of if you have to improve the mechanical, electrical systems already within this facility, then that full $12 million that we're talking about for this next phase, which includes new systems, it's really not, somewhere in there, part of that is this mechanical system that we need to fix and the electrical system. So I don't know how you break that in half because you'd throw it all into one project and get it designed together, but you're going to have to spend some of that money even if you don't do anything.
And hopefully be more efficient. Would be the
Correct.
goal.
Yes. For instance, this was built under, the codes they were built under, this is not insulated anywhere close to what we have to insulate the new building. So as we put up more square feet, we cost less for utilities.
I just remember I was up in the Corn Palace attic, and I don't think that's insulated at all up there.
Yeah.
Maybe we should blow some in there.
Okay.
Sorry, get off track, but.
There we go.
Yeah.
I have the number now. So if you just took the games that we bill out for it, like you said, not with the ticket rate, I think you're spot on, actually, Tim. It was $7,900 for DWU. MHS was $6,100.
Oh, 100 off, not bad.
Way better than my memory.
And we'll still be heating the same amount of the building because the building isn't getting any bigger. We're just adding more floor space, we can do more events. So it makes total sense to me. I mean,
Yeah, I guess as somebody who enjoys indoor soccer, when I look at the increased floor space, that would be something that you could have, I'm going to guess, somewhere around 8 futsal courts, which is what you call indoor soccer. And so I would agree that turf is certainly more enjoyable to play on, but it's not impossible to play on a hardwood surface as well.
no, Dakota Wesleyan's bringing 200 teams in this weekend or next weekend to play in their facilities. I mean, they could use this, they could use a lot of different places.
I'm just curious, are these courts, I mean, can people do pickleball tournaments? Could we paint them so that there are those options out there?
You can. It's amazing what we're painting on courts now.
Yeah.
Some of them get so busy in the high schools I wonder if the players can figure out what lines they're dealing with. But
right.
yes, easily we can put pickleball.
I think
on.
Dakota Wesleyan had a pickleball tournament
Yeah, they did.
2 weekends ago
Yeah.
at their facility.
And what was the thing, like they filled up
Yeah,
basically overnight and
Uh-huh.
people came
Within a
from
couple
all over to play in that? I mean, I admit that I was being a little tongue-in-cheek when I said if you build it, they will come. But what I mean by that is that I don't think we know what we don't know. I think that if we have the space, we're going to be able to find things that we haven't had the opportunity, we've never even considered because it wasn't an option for us. And I think that I'm not naive enough to think that it's going to happen overnight, but I do think it will happen. So I think it's something that we just need to be forward-thinking and progressive and plan, start planning now for what we're going to be able to do when this space is there.
So for instance, in the estimate, eventually you'd have an estimated cost for the wood floor. And there's a couple grades of wood floor to put in, but we'd try to match what you have there. The cost of striping is inconsequential, really. So then at that point, you have a cost. If you put the wood floor, here's what it is. Then it's the questions, which sometimes take a couple months to figure out, how exactly do you want to stripe this? What courts do you want to put on there? What colors do we put to all these lines? We do that during the construction documents, and actually some of that is during construction when shop drawings come in. It's like, okay, now we pick the colors for the stripes. But early on, we know what floor area you have and what you can put on there, and that'll be part of our study.
Sorry to jump in, but does this include a new basketball court as well for replacing our current one?
Good question. Our intent is if your current one's in great shape.
I don't think it is.
Good enough shape, okay.
It's not.
So then you're going to tell me, okay, which is easily done. It's just, we just put
Just
that
need a bunch
number
of
in
money.
here. And eventually, if it gets 12, 13, 14 million, if it starts going up, you'll have those options to say, oh, maybe we don't replace that right now. Or maybe we don't put those retractable bleachers in right away. Or you do have options within these plans, so you'll have some cost numbers to know, why is it adding up to 12 million or 9 million would be great, or what if it's going to 13 or 14? And you can then play with those numbers and with us and tell us what goes into this project to get bid, what might get deferred in some cases. And how do you, so I think ultimately the final dollar amount, we're designing and trying to keep it within 12. The final dollar amount is up to you. So it comes back to you with, here's what we're estimating for this, here's some variables, and you're going to tell us, pull these variables out or put a couple in that maybe we're thinking, that's part of the design process that we're not that far yet. But that's, the next stage is to get you to 2 options with price ranges, with what's included and what's not included. And so you get an idea of saying, yes, you can go forward with option 1 or 2, and with the variables, some of these variables in and some of the variables out.
Can you explain to everyone in the room and the people at home your fee structure and what this contract would work?
Yeah.
Once you design it, if we were to say yes or no or stop you or go?
Correct. So you can stop us at any time. Our fee structure, it grows with the project as the project grows. So it's smaller to start with, and it gets almost, not quite right, but it almost doubles per phase. So early on, we're doing what would be called a schematic phase, and that's with 2 options, and coming up to 2 options, what we think they'll cost and what's included in those costs, followed by design development of the fee. Kind of doubles from what it was in schematic design to more in design development, because that's really when the engineers get involved and we start figuring out how everything fits in this building. And if I made the mechanical room a little small or a little big, we make a lot of those fine-tuned decisions at that point. We can refine our cost estimates and get them closer to a range. And then the final stage, if we've done our job well and communicated well, is a lot of in-house work of putting all the details together so the contractor has a comprehensive plan on how to build a building and how to put it all together. So it's all the nuts and bolts and final details, but that's a lot of time and a lot of energy put into that part where the mechanical, electrical, structural, civil, all these people are all tied together, coordinating the entire building. So again, it doubles from the design development phase again to the construction document phase. Then our fees drop dramatically because now you go out and get pricing, and then we spend time over the next 2 years of construction or year and a half of construction working with the contractor. A lot of it's behind the scenes, but it's submittals of shop drawings and pay applications, and to represent you as a project is going up. Those fees are spread out over a couple of years, a period of time. Anywhere along the process, until you start construction, you can stop. You can stop us. So if you don't like where we're heading after this first phase of here's a couple concepts and here's where it's going price-wise, we can stop. We can wait for you to wait a minute, we got to find some funding, we got to find more financing or however you put that together, and then give us a go again. I'd love it if you went straight through the process, but most clients have times when they pause. And we pause with you and start up when you're ready to start up again. And it becomes a give and take process. Part of our design is like, what's it going to look like? Well, that was my first attempt at where I thought we were headed at. In-house, I said, I got to get something so I can just show the mayor. That's really where it started. And I put this hump on the back because I'm thinking, we're going to see, I've got that's probably an elevator. And I think I was putting an elevator down in here. It's not even on there. Exit stairs both sides. And see all these doors? This was going to be a grand entrance over here because that was on option B. Well, we talked a little bit, now we're not going to have a grand entrance. We don't need that. We have this front door here. I need exits, but I don't need another grand exit entrance, and that helps cut costs. So now when I point at this drawing, it's already outdated, but it was my first, when I bring something, it's the first opportunity to discuss what works and what doesn't work. And so the design process is that kind of a give and take. I'll put something in that you'll help you think of, well, wait a minute, we don't want to do that. Or what do you think about that? And then we'll go back and try that iteration. So until we get to the concept you like, we don't really want to go far into the next phase.
How many dollars does it take to get us to a concept we like?
I was looking at $84,000 was the proposal.
Robin, the work that you've done, obviously several years ago,
Correct.
how much in today's dollars would that be approximately with taking this concept and moving forward with what you've already done? I mean, this is a
study?
ballpark.
Our study?
Yeah.
Oh.
Of what you'd be able to use for what you have done
Yeah,
already.
I'm thinking we're using probably 50,000 or more of that, because we've done all the scans, and we have, our engineers have been through the project, and it's informing me now that we can actually fit that kind of seating in there and that kind of floor space. And our study moved the center basketball court over by about 10 feet, so we're reevaluating that, but that's not a problem. It's just, to me, it's like how exactly, what is the size of the final footprint, but I've got all the data I need to be able to incorporate all that, which is what makes those early stages a little less money.
So my next question is, February 3rd is our next meeting.
Yes.
Could you come with a possible agreement for us to at least consider and look
Yes.
at?
Yep.
You would
Not a
be able to
problem.
do that?
Yes.
And Jeff, that might
Pending,
be,
pending your city attorney over
yeah,
there.
I think that's probably a good point for me to jump in, and I don't want to,
He's good at
belabor
looking
the
at
point here,
contracts.
but, going back to the last meeting, the direction from council was to come back with an agreement, a design agreement to look at for potential approval. Robin was able to send that over shortly after that, and then I reviewed that contract, did a full review of that architectural contract in detail and provided recommendations on it. Some of those points would still need to be negotiated if we're doing a full contract. When we met last week, we talked about a few different possibilities with that. And these are kind of the two things that I'd be looking for as to what exactly we're bringing back next time. The contract that we received from Robin last time was a full contract that would take you from where we're at now and would carry you all the way through the completion of the project. Another option is to do a scaled-down initial schematic design phase. That would help you narrow in on the concept that you want to use, give you a better idea of what the budget would be on your project, and then you could proceed with a full contract and a full project from that point on, which actually I didn't know that the Corn Palace Plaza stuff was going to be on tonight, but that kind of gives you an idea of what happened there, is you just saw the results of the schematic design phase there, and in the near future, you're going to be getting the next phase of the project to bring it back for more design, and then through the construction. So that's one alternative. As Robin said, that schematic design phase he had, and I know that some of this was up for discussion, but it was in the project at around that $84,000 figure. And that's based off of the current scope of that $12 million, which we don't know is 100% accurate. But so the first thing that I'd be looking for feedback on is, do we want, when we're bringing something back at the next meeting, do we want it to be focused on that schematic design phase, or do we want it to be the full-blown contract that's going to take us all the way through the project? And depending on the answer to that question, we also had some discussion on the fee arrangement, which Robin talked to you about their proposal on tonight, which is a percentage-based option. We also discussed potentially lump sum and hourly not to exceed options, which those would take more discussion to get into. But if you're doing the schematic design phase this next time, then this probably isn't the time that we need to decide on what that ultimate fee structure is going to be, because we're just focusing on that schematic design phase right now. So,
I could probably, if I could jump on top of that, you can.
Sure.
What we tried to do was a lump sum fee, but the challenge is we're looking at a $12 million project, but we don't necessarily know if it'll end out 9, 11, 13, 15, and so what do you put into the project eventually? So what we did is we based it on 12, lump sum, lump sum, lump sum, but we said we put in the project or in the contract a variable, so if it goes after the schematic design phase is done and you go into the next phase, Then if it varies from the $12 million, then our fee changes by 4.75%. The difference.
4.75.
4.75, thank you, of the difference is the way we set that up. So it'd still be, if you were to look at the next phase and if it was based on a lump at exactly a $12 million project, that we gave you a lump sum for that. But invariably, it won't be exactly 12. So does it vary up and down from that? To give you an example, we did that on the high school. They had us design a $42 million project with 30 million, I don't have my numbers now, $20 million worth of ad alternates that they didn't know if they were going to build or not. So we did the design up to a phase, and we didn't charge for this, and then they added it, so then the contract was in place, so then we could add the rest of that at that multiplier difference. So it gets you probably a, well, I don't know, better price by locking something in, but
So, Joe, as the Public Works Director, that particular scenario that we do the schematics, are you comfortable, or is that kind of a direction you would recommend, or do you want to give us a little input on your insight?
Yeah, my personal preference in something like this would be to proceed with the schematic design, see what comes out of that, and then move forward from that basis once that selection is made.
Well, if that's the case, I'm in favor of Robin coming back in February 3rd and taking a look at it and see if you guys are comfortable with the language, and then we can have more public discussion.
Yeah, we can work with Robin to gear it more towards just the schematic design phase at this point, and then see where that takes us.
Yep.
Can I ask why we haven't looked at any other architects? We had to look at other chairs.
Yep.
For the same reason. I'm just wondering why. I'm not saying nothing wrong.
I know.
With nothing wrong with you, Robin. I'm just
Sure.
saying, I had a couple other architects reach out and say, we live here, we would like a shot at that.
It's true.
And if it could save us $2 million, it's probably worth
right.
looking at.
So we're looking at a continuation of the interview and the contract proposal that we did earlier on. So this is an extension of our study.
Robin,
This is
how
the way
many
I look at
interviewed that day? Do you remember? I was thinking it was 5.
There might have been. We were last.
Yeah, I was thinking it was 5.
And our cable didn't work. I remember that. We
Yeah,
were-
but
for
that
a
was the
while.
process we went through, and we had local, and then, but at that time, I'm not saying it would happen today, but at the time, is they seemed to have the best solution and the best knowledge and the background of taking a look at what we were going to try to do at the Palace at the time.
I think it was 5, because I was there too, and we've already got a $50,000 with this, with all the studies that they have done that we're going to save, if we get somebody else to do it, but, it's an option.
Are we going to have to do another study? You mentioned that earlier.
You can have me do studies forever.
We
I
don't want to
wanna
do any studies. At least
I hate
don't.
studies. This is why when we did this study and it sat, that's why we kept kind of going, we need to do something. We need to, and I'd come back every once in a while, what can we do, what can we do? That's why we did that thing in the Corn Palace, just because let's get it out in front of people again and let's do something. Let's find a fundraiser. And so all along, I've just been kind of trying to figure out a way to get some traction to get it going again, because to spend money on a study and put it on a shelf, it's only good for the architect, but it stinks. It's the worst kind of project we could do is design something and not see it get built. So to see you coming back and looking at the possibility of remodeling that east part of the Corn Palace, that's exciting. That's where you should be. And it looks like it's within your budget, so within striking range, I want to get it moving. That's where I'm at.
We'll just have them come back February 3rd.
I think there's some people in the audience that'd like to speak if we want to give them a chance to. Thanks, Robin. We'll probably call you back up.
Should I leave the pointer there?
No, I don't need a pointer. Yeah, pass those that way. Pass those around. I think I got enough for all of you. So go ahead and take one. I'll go ahead and start talking while you're passing them around.
Can you just introduce yourself again for the people at home?
Roger Music, sorry. I, used to be the CEO of Innovative Systems for many years and at Martin and Associates. So anyway, I looked at your study that we did a couple years ago that was the 2040 study. When I looked at that, the Corn Palace was the lowest thing as a priority for the city based on the input from the citizens. It had 4 to 6%. The I don't know was just slightly lower. Blake was at 50%, and that was the highest. So it had almost no priority from the citizens of Mitchell. I looked back in this 2027 when we had the public vote. It was 69% against, 31% for. So that again is the population telling you this is not what we're looking for. Since 2007, the high school has one of the best performing arts centers in South Dakota, seats 1,200 people. All of those events that used to be at the Corn Palace, they're now at the Performing Arts Center, and it's much better. Acoustics are many times as good. The high school, which is going to be completed next year, is going to have one large gym that is big enough for 3 basketball floors, and then it has pull-out chairs and bleachers, so it can have one competition court with seating for 2,000 people. It has another gym, the medium-sized gym, that has 2 practice courts for volleyball, wrestling, gymnastics, and it'll seat 1,500 people. It has a smaller gym that is a multi-purpose gym for practice purposes. So at DW, we remodeled the Christian Wellness Center a while ago, added bleachers to it. We can now play our volleyball games there and have pull-out bleachers for volleyball. They play their JV basketball games there and pull out bleachers for that. They can play varsity and JV volleyball in that, and it's a real nice facility today. The Avera Sports and Wellness Center, which is the large complex we built a few years ago, it's 85,000 square feet. It has 3 general purpose practice facilities for basketball that can be used for basketball, volleyball, indoor soccer. They just played their pickleball tournament there. Has an indoor 200-meter track where they have DW and some high school track meets inside. They can practice baseball, softball, hitting practice. There's cages for that. There's a wrestling room there. And this is all new in the last few years. Just for reference purposes, that entire facility cost us less than $12,000.
$12 million.
Huh?
You said 12,000.
No, less than $12 million.
Yes.
Yep, excuse me.
Yep.
And the other key, it was 100% funded with donations. We didn't have any tax dollars. We didn't go to the citizens and ask for taxes. We funded it with 100% donations. And very honestly, if you fund the Corn Palace with donations, I don't care what you do. If you want to use tax dollars, you need to use tax dollars in a respectable way that the citizens want. So if we did need more facilities in 2007, we probably tripled or 4 times the facilities we had at that time, and they're already in place. And they're not used all the time. The high school is going to have empty facilities quite often. I agree if you're going to bring an event, there's nothing wrong with putting it in the high school gym, and I'm sure they'll work with you on that. But we don't need to build another facility and use tax dollars for it. How often do we fill the Corn Palace? Almost never. I haven't been to an event that was filled in my memory. I think when Mike Miller played, we filled it a few times, and that's the last I remember. And I really have nothing against the Corn Palace. I like going to the Corn Palace games. I like watching the games, high school and DW. I like the rodeo, those kinds of things. But the Corn Palace will never be a moneymaker for the city, period. I don't care what you do. The Corn Palace is a loser financially for the city. So look at one other thing. I asked GPT, which always gives me unbiased opinions. How much additional revenue is required for a $15 million addition to an event center in a small town to create a reasonable rate of return? Well, it says we have to increase our revenue about, for an 8% return, we have to do 1.2 million additional revenue. Can you do that? 1.2 million additional revenue over what we have today? If you're going to get a 12% return on investment, you need 1.8 million. So if you double the cost, which this would require, how many events leave Mitchell? Is Hanson Anderson even going to be here if you double their costs? Are they going to be at the high school or Parkson or Salem? So the next question is, when I was on the development board a few years ago, we had Dr. Brown do a study. He's the economist, South Dakota economist for the entire state, so he's the #1 expert in South Dakota at the time. And we asked him, what can we do to improve the economy in Mitchell? And he gave us a great study, about 30, 40 slides, and explained it to us very, very well. If you haven't seen it, you need to study it. Every council person should have a copy of that and review it on a routine basis. So I looked at what did the answer that he gave us in 2012, increase the number of good-paying jobs and bring money into Mitchell. I mean, he emphasized that throughout the entire study, and I've got a couple pages included here. Example, what did he recommend? Companies like Muth Electric, Cromer Plumbing, Pitts Design, Vantage Point, Innovative Systems, CHR, Mitchell Telecom, Tech Solutions, Queen of Peace, DW, MTI. There was not one restaurant or motel listed on that list. I looked at the salaries and number of employees we have in different categories from the state of South Dakota. And if you look comparing us to Beadle County, which is two easy ones, you look down and say manufacturing. We have 18% jobs. They have 29% jobs. That's a huge problem. Those 29% are probably all on health care. Our other jobs are not. They're low-paying jobs. If you look down at, accommodations and food service, this is restaurant workers, basically, and motel workers. We have 1,219, or 12%, compared to 8%. So we have 4 or 5% more population working in that industry. And that's the industry that would grow if you bring in more events, right? So what's the average salary of those people? Well, it's somewhere between $12 and $14 an hour. Is that the jobs you want to create? One interesting thing, we talk about the Good Old Boys Club. The Good Old Boys Club in Mitchell is the people that are trying to bring in more events and create low-paying jobs. That's what keeps our average salary low. It isn't that Martin and Associates or Innovative Systems is paying too low a wages. It's that we have way too many jobs that are getting low-paying wages. So we're promoting the wrong category of worker, and that's the problem with the city. So do you want to use tax dollars to increase tourists and create more low-paying jobs? Is that our mission? It's not my mission. I've, in the next couple pages, is pages right out of Dr. Brown's study. At the very bottom, focus efforts on growing export industries. Export industries are businesses that bring money into Mitchell and create good-paying jobs. That's his recommendation. rather than growing population-based industries. If you look in the next page, what will grow export industries? Educated and trained workers, positive business environment, low tax burden, infrastructure, good roads, utilities, communications, and good quality of life. And I think we've done a pretty good job the last few years helping in those areas. The swimming pool was a major thing, and I donated significantly for the swimming pool. The extra ice rink was a good thing for the kids, and it brings people to Mitchell, but it is activities for the people that are already here. And that's the ones I care about. I mean, the ones that come in from out of town, that's nice, but I want the ones that are already here to want to stay here. Recreations, parks, athletics, outdoor activities, reasonable cost of living, attractive community. Those are all things that keep people in the Mitchell community or allow us to bring them in. I used to recruit kids, and I'll tell you, if they were married and had young kids, and when we didn't have new grade schools, it was like when you showed them the old grade schools, it's like, you just, well, forget it. They're not moving here, you know. They've come from a town that has nice new grade schools. When we built new grade schools, that was a huge recruiting advantage. So the next page, it just shows some export companies based on his study at the time, the same type that I listed. And over my career, about 50 years, I've recruited hundreds of people to Mitchell, and all for good paying jobs. Not one of them has ever wanted to visit the Corn Palace. Not one ever said, I want to go visit the Corn Palace. They did go on a visit the school system. They wanted to see where their kids would go to school, those kinds of things. But nobody said they wanted to visit the Corn Palace. The interests they are in, a good job, a good school system, reasonable housing, activities for them and their families, available daycare is a big thing. It's getting bigger all the time. It's a huge problem just about every place. They want good health care. We have a hospital and good doctors, indoor swimming pool, bike paths, walking paths, local college and technical school. Those are the things that allow us to recruit good paying jobs to Mitchell. I included a letter from Larry Thompson. He wanted to be here tonight, but he's out of town, so he sent me a letter. He asked me to present it to the council, but he basically says exactly what I'm saying. People don't come to Mitchell because of the Corn Palace. They come because of a job. They come because they could have things to do for them and their kids. So putting more money into the Corn Palace does not increase the quality of life in Mitchell and diverts money away from other things that can make a real difference for the community. That's his closing statement, but you can read the entire letter. I asked GPT, a small town of 15,000 people has 12% of its workers today working in low-paying food services positions. What should it do to improve its economy? And I tell it to give a short answer, otherwise it gives you 2 pages of stuff. So, and that's pretty standard. The answer, the town should focus on diversifying its economy by attracting higher paying industries such as technology, healthcare, manufacturing. It can offer incentives for businesses, invest in workforce development programs, promote entrepreneurship to create more skilled jobs, and reduce dependencies on low-income jobs. What should it do to encourage those people to want to move to Mitchell? That's my next question to GPT, and it lists off, and I'm not going to go through them all, but you can read them. No place in there it says build a good tourist attraction. I can't get these apart. If you don't have any better idea to spend $12 million of taxpayer money, then lower your taxes. Because this is a terrible idea from Mitchell's standpoint. I asked just an interesting question. Would subsidizing good daycare encourage people to move to your community? And I asked GPT, yes, subsidized daycare can encourage people to move to your community, making it a more affordable for families and young children to work. It also frees up a lot of people for the workforce. If you drive around Mitchell today, there's hardly anybody that doesn't have a help wanted sign. And they don't even get applications, let alone people they can hire. So if we could free up 100 ladies or 100 people that are now staying home and taking care of their kids for our workforce, that's 100 more good-paying jobs. So I asked, what cities in South Dakota are considering preschool funding? It lists every city there that's already investigating how can they, as a city, help get better preschool in their community. And I would almost bet you, if you do a survey in Mitchell, would you rather have subsidized preschool or $12 million spent on the Corn Palace? There is no doubt in my mind the way the citizens vote on that. Any questions? So as I say, I think the real problem is you're the good old guys, or good, what was your term? Good old boys. Because you're focused on creating more low-paying jobs. And that's not what the city needs. I have no problem with the hotels having a bid district, collecting an extra $1 or $2 from their patrons and using that to promote events. I think that's perfect. But when you start taking tax dollars to fund that, that's where it goes bad. And enough preaching, huh? I'm pretty serious about this, that I think it's a total waste of funds for the city of Mitchell. I do agree that you have to do routine maintenance and those kinds of things. I have no problem with that at all. And I appreciate your efforts to try to make it less of a money pit for the city. But putting $12 million in it is not going to do that. It's going to double your required revenue. And now that we have 2 or 3 times as many places as we did before, you should work with DWU like you did on the pickleball wall. Work with the high school, try to schedule events in their facilities when they're not using them. We need to maximize what we have, not try to build new ones. Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Further discussion? Does the staff have direction? Okay, we got a thumbs up. All right. Moving on. Hearing and well, we're not very far into this thing yet, are we? It's like a whole nother page. Yeah. Hearing and action on the application to transfer RB 2841 retail on-off sale malt beverage in South Dakota farm wine license from 8 West LLC doing business as Super 8 Mitchell, 1700 South Burr Street to TBM LLC doing business as Mitchell Liquor and Wine, 1620 South Burr Street, Suite 4, video lottery included. Chief Knipling.
Mayor, City Council, Chief Knipling. Staff has reviewed this application. We recommend approval.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Brington.
Second.
Second by Mr. Goldhammer. Further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? Okay. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to approve street light at the street shop compost recycling area. Mr. Schrader.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, Council, the City of Mitchell Street and Traffic Division is requesting a light be installed on the north side of the compost yard and recycling drop-off area facing south. Yeah, I have attached a figure that is shown there with the location that it may be placed, and staff does recommend approval.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mrs. Church, second by Mr. Goldhammer. Further discussion? Anyone in the audience wish to speak on this? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to approve agreement number 1 to agreement A 2023-18, construction services for North Harmon over Firesteel Creek Big Grant SN 18-129-061 PCN 09 GJ with Bros Engineering. Mr. Schrader.
Mr. Mayor, Council. Council approved the award of the West End Bridge Preservation Grant, a bid to Sioux Falls Construction Civil Contractors for $208,978 on December 2nd of 2024. Proposed improvements include a two-coat polymer chip seal, rust remediation at weld locations on the bridge and sidewalk railings, and other associated improvements. Bros Engineering has provided a proposal to provide construction phase professional services for the project. Bros Engineering is on the South Dakota DOT's approved engineering list for bridge design and construction services. The services will include project administration, construction staking, construction observation, and testing. Staff does recommend approval of this agreement to Bros Engineering for an amount not to exceed $57,000. Overall contingency for this project is at 6%. I can answer any questions you may have.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer, second by Mrs. Church. Further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to approve agreement A 2025-03 for lease to purchase on new golf course grounds and turf maintenance equipment. Mr. Nelson.
Mr. Mayor and Council, Lakeview sorely needs new equipment for maintaining grounds and turf, and has selected a lease to purchase option for payment. The Toro equipment, which is listed on the Midwest Turf and Irrigation state contract quote, has an estimated annual lease to purchase cost of $64,000 and some change for 5 years. The Ventrac machine, which will be factored into this agreement at an additional cost of approximately $10,000 per year. The current rate factor would be about $9,500 a year, and we have budgeted $75,000 for this purpose in 2025 and are planning for the same payment from revenue for the next 4 years. Staff recommends approval. I'll answer any questions.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Sabers, second by Mr. McCardle. Any further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to approve agreement A 2025-04 equitable sharing agreement and certification. Chief Knipling.
Mr. Mayor and Council, this is a yearly agreement that we enter into, which allows us to have the opportunity to share in federal sharing funds that we may qualify for.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. McCardle, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion?
How much does it amount to on an annual basis roughly?
We actually have not received this money for quite some time. It's based on if there would be a large federal government seizure, something like that, that we would able to recuperate costs that we are involved in. But as a rule, we don't qualify for this, but this enables us the opportunity of someone to rise.
Thanks.
It's probably a good thing we don't need the money then. Okay. Any further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to approve agreement A 2025-05 James Valley Drug Task Force Joint Powers Agreement. Chief Knipling.
Mr. Mayor and Council, this is another yearly agreement that we enter into with Aurora County, Davidson County, and Hanson County, and Sanborn County in order just to share resources on drug investigations.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. McCardle. Second by Jeff Smith, I think one. Okay, it doesn't. All right, give it to Marty. Okay, any further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to approve agreement A 2025-06 design engineering for North Ullman Street, 23rd to Kemper with SPN and Associates. Mr. Schrader.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Council. SPN Associates was requested to provide a proposal for design phase services for a project on Ullman Street from 23rd to Kemper Avenues. The proposal includes topographic survey, utility design, and full street construction design. This portion of roadway is currently a rural section. Street would be updated with curb and gutter and sidewalk. The project was discussed during our 2025 budget hearings, but was not budgeted at that time. It is planned to be paid for with water and sewer enterprise funds. This project may be funded through a future state revolving fund SRF loan project or from the city's general fund and enterprise funds. The agreement also includes review of the 23rd Avenue and Olman Street intersection and lane configuration for Olman Street by HDR Engineering. HDR Engineering completed the city's transportation study in May of 2023. Staff does recommend approval of the proposed agreement with SPN to perform design services at an hourly rate not to exceed fee of $245,000. And I can answer any questions you may have.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? This is just to design that road, right?
Correct. I would
Okay.
see this being designed during the summer, fall months, and then during the 26 budgeting process. I do have two other agreements for two other projects, one being First Avenue and the other being 13th Avenue to address a flooding issue that we would then choose which of, 1, 2, and 3, or however we decide to go about implementing those projects. We would decide that during the 26 budget hearing.
Okay, further discussion?
Mayor and council, I do need to point out on the last meeting and this meeting, we've had several items come up for your approval that are outside of the normal budgeting process. This one is being paid for out of utility accounts, but I just need to caution you that if we're going to continue to approve structurally balanced budgets, we can't continue to make commitments out of budget funds that we haven't approved through that process. So this one, like I said, is coming out of utility tax funds, but we do have another one later that's coming out of the drainage account. I think I totaled up what you've been talking about so far. If you did everything that we talked about, it's close to $1 million. So I'm just going to caution you, we've been approving structurally balanced budgets so that we don't want to tap into contingency in January of the next year. So I just felt like I needed to make sure I make that statement.
So we're just approving the
$265,000 for the design,
okay.
and it's out of the utility accounts. Like I said, the only one of these design ones that are out of general fund would be the number 24 on the agenda.
But the actual project will be next year's budget, right?
Well, the construction, yes.
Right,
The
okay.
design is started now, if you approve it.
Potentially.
Potentially. Just making sure it's not right now. Okay. With that, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to approve Agreement A 2025-07, Design Engineering for East First Avenue Burr to foster with SPN and Associates. Mr. Schrader.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, Council. This is very similar to the previous design agreement. It would be full street reconstruction with curb and gutter. We replace the utilities, water, sewer, and any storm sewer that needs to be replaced. Again, this was one of the projects that was discussed during the 2025 budget hearings, but was not budgeted. Like Stephanie said, this is planned to be paid for out of our water and sewer enterprise funds. The agreement also includes review of First and Burr intersection by HDR Engineering, which again, they completed the city's transportation study in May of '23. Staff does recommend approval of the proposed agreement with SPN Associates at an hourly rate not to exceed fee of $265,000, and I can answer any questions you may have.
Joe, I have a question, please. If this design work is done and okayed and paid for, and it's not in the budget next year or the year after, is this design work good 4 years from now? Or will we have to do it over again?
No, I feel like First Avenue is an established street, so there wouldn't be any changes in elevation or anything like that. Water and sewer, it would not change because those are all set. And I do feel that if this project was shelved, it could be completed a few years down the road.
Out of curiosity, where does the city and the county take over on First?
Wallace Street.
Wallace Street. Because I think the counties or the DOT is planning on doing some work as well. Would this be scheduled at about the same time that they were doing that work, or are we trying to do it us one year and them another year?
It would be, I think it would be nice if we had our section done before theirs. I believe theirs is slated for 2029 period roughly. I don't think it would be a good idea to do both at the same time just because of access to those areas would be even more difficult. And again, the reason we picked this section is it's one of those areas where we have the 100-year-old water main, extremely old sewer main. So it's just we're chunking out older sections of town with 4-inch water main and replacing those as part of our replacement program.
Yeah, and that's a really busy, I mean, that's a very busy road, right, Stephanie? You drive it every day, and so that will be, I'm sure you'll just have some detours for people.
Definitely,
Well,
yep. That'll be a big part of the project is making sure people are rerouted where they need to go.
And Joe, to clarify, this only, does it go through First Avenue or stop at First?
It would start at,
Right, not all the way to
on
Walmart.
First.
no, this project's from Berta Foster.
Yeah, just Berta Foster, so you're not going to go all the way over to where the state's project starts.
Right, yeah, but I was just curious about having two sections of First Street.
No, that
Right.
would not be the intention.
And I think that intersection at First and Foster was one of the problem ones that they identified in our transportation study, as well as up on Olman was one of the concern areas.
First and Foster is one they reviewed. I know they looked at the recommendation of adding a 4-way stop at that location. I do know by design standards, technically the stop sign should be switched. But, at this point, changing them would probably cause more havoc than leaving them.
Joe, do they base that off of traffic count to put a 4-way stop there?
Yes, correct.
Because my neighbors will be moving in here in the next year, traffic count will go up even more.
Yeah. Progress.
Okay, so just to ease the city administrator's mind, how many dollars was this again?
This one is not, this is a utility account one, but you did just approve the Corn Palace design of the seating, which was $9,700. I think at the last meeting, we had close to $750,000 worth of items that have been discussed. The pickleball design, that for the for the lights that was not included, the cost of the lights is not included. You had several other items you approved at the last meeting. So I'm just making a point of it that we need to be careful in what we're approving because it's not part of the budget process. These are out of the utility accounts, so they should be okay.
So you're feeling good with this one?
Yeah,
Okay,
they're
just wanna
good.
make
I
sure
just still
we're
feel
doing
like
all
I
the
have
right
to give
things.
my disclaimer on it
Being
that.
financially responsible.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I'd entertain a motion on that since we don't have one yet.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer. Second by Mr. Sabers. Further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to approve Agreement A 2025-08 Watershed and Flood Prevention Operations with James River Water Development. Mr. Schrader.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Council. The city approved an application for a Natural Resources Conservation Service, or NRCS, Watershed and Flood Prevention Operations, or WFPO, Planning Assistance Grant on November 14th of 2022. Since then, the city has been working with the NRCS on a preliminary investigation feasibility report, or a PIFR. Entities with jurisdiction within the watershed must agree to co-sponsor the project prior to submitting the PIFR. James River Water Development District is one of those entities. They have requested an agreement stating that the city will cover any planning costs incurred by James River Water Development District relating to the proposed project that are not covered by the NRCS planning assistance, with the exception of basic administrative costs. With that, I would like to say the planning portion of the project is covered 100% by NRCS, so we do not foresee any additional costs being associated with James River Water Development District, but they just wanted that in writing from the city of Mitchell that they would be protected in the case that there was. I do recommend council approval of the agreement with James River Water Development District and authorize the mayor to sign. I can answer any questions you may have.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Smith. Second by Mrs. Jerks. Any further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to approve Agreement A 2025-09, 13th in Wisconsin Storm Drainage with McLaury Engineering. Mr. Schrader.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, Council, McLaury Engineering was requested to provide a proposal for design and bid phase services for a project at 13th Avenue and Wisconsin Street to address localized flooding that is experienced during rain events. The proposal includes topographic survey, utility, design, and full street reconstruction on 13th Avenue from Wisconsin to Minnesota. Partial street construction would be completed west of Minnesota on 13th Avenue. This project was identified in the Northwest Drainage Study completed by McLaury. This project will likely be funded through general fund and enterprise funds. The total cost for this is estimated to be $79,000, and staff does recommend approval to proceed at an hourly rate not to exceed of $79,000. I can answer any questions you may have.
Okay, so is this, Stephanie, is this one of the ones, yeah, so now I'm going to take blame for this one, because Joe did ask me about this. We were talking about drainage frequently. I said, let's just get it on the agenda. Now, since I'm new and I got to lean on my staff for making all the right decisions, I just want to make sure that I'm going to let Stephanie take it from here and make sure I don't cause any mistakes.
It's okay for council to do that. I just, again, need to say that, you know, we pass a structurally balanced budget. We go through a budget hearing process. Every time we add things outside of that, before we even know where we're ending last year, you're approving a supplement before we've even closed out 2024 to know what our remaining budget balance is from 24. So I'm just getting concerned because we committed some at the last meeting, and now we've already committed one for the seat design, and now we have another one, and I don't have the 2024 closeout numbers done yet. So
Let me ask you a question.
concerning.
Would we be allowed to table this or vote it down and then put it on later once we have the numbers and then
Or
we
they-
can make better decisions?
Yeah, that'd be great.
When will we have those numbers to ease your mind a little bit?
I don't know. We probably have most of do you have most of your adjustments and stuff done? Okay, so now if her cash part is done, I need to hear from all the department heads how much they have left over from last year that they didn't get done out of their budgeted project. So it's going to be probably a month
So
at least.
would it be okay for someone to make a motion to like table it for 45 days or something and then we
March
could just.
1st, the first meeting in March, we'll know by then.
That way we're not, I don't want to get us in it, you know? I just said, let's get everything drained in this town, you know what I
I
mean?
think it's good to, I think it's good to.
For example,
I'll make
Yeah.
a motion to table till March.
Postpone it.
Okay, we got a motion till table till, postpone it till,
I mean, so the example is you guys are approving bills from 2024 at tonight's meeting. So
Right.
that's why I don't know where
Yep.
2024 is ending. Yeah.
sorry.
I agree.
I moved very quickly. I'm glad, someone needs to slow me down. So table it till March.
I'll still make the motion table till March.
Okay. Do we have a second? Second by Mrs. Sharks, sorry. I'm like looking at everyone and it's like getting the names and the numbers. Okay,
Thank you, Mayor, for taking the effort to start this project, because we literally do need to start. And John's question, I don't think it's going to be wasted if we have to sit on it for a little while, Joel, because once you've got it designed, it's ready whenever the money's there.
Yep.
Okay.
And this street's had a lot of problems. That's why when Joe asked, I said, let's just get it on there. So-
Right, and that's what I was going to echo before, just the fact, I'm glad this is coming to the forefront, and it needs to be addressed as one of obviously several areas that we have problems. We know this has been an issue over multiple years, so I'm glad it's there, but I totally understand, Stephanie, just a little breather is going to be great, but hopefully we can come back to this in March and get it going again, because it needs to be addressed.
Especially because the primary goal you guys give me is a structurally balanced budget. So I don't want to.
She was sweating a little bit this morning, so I was just like, let's figure it out. Okay, so we got a motion and a second to table it until March. Any further discussion? Anyone in the audience wish to speak on this? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to approve agreement A 2025-10, AIP design of runway 18-38, reconstruction of lighting improvement, AIP 34, and authorize mayor to sign. Mr. Schrader.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, Council. The council approved a pre-application for an airport improvement program grant for the design of runway 1836 shift, reconstruction, and lighting improvement project. as listed in our airport improvement program. Attached is the grant application for a total design fee of $315,000. The fee is broken down as federal share, $299,250, state share of $7,875, and city share of $7,875. There's an attached map showing the location of the project. I am requesting an additional $2,250 during the supplemental appropriation process. And with that, I will recommend council approval and to grant authorization for the mayor to sign. And
Okay,
the
so just,
document to be executed.
just,
Right.
Okay.
Much
make
smaller,
sure.
much smaller number than 79,000, so.
want to make sure.
I just wanted to point it out.
Okay.
Move to approve the agreement.
Motion by Mr. Brington, second by Mr. Goldhammer. Further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to approve Agreement A, 2025-11, new landfill monitoring project, 2025-29 with Geotech. Mr. Schrader.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, Council. The Department of Environmental and Natural Resources sets the requirements, Department of Agriculture and Natural Resources sets the requirements for monitoring and testing of the landfill. Based off that monitoring plan, Geotech has provided a fee for their services to satisfy those testing requirements. Testing will include groundwater level monitoring and groundwater and methane sampling. Staff does recommend approval of this agreement, an estimated amount of $23,635, and to grant authorization for the mayor to sign. Basically, this testing just sees if we have any leakage in our clay liner. We haven't had any issues in the past. We are seeing increased levels of methane, and I think within the next few years, we may have to start collecting our methane. However, the soybean plant has expressed interest in using our methane if we do start collecting, so we may have a place for it to be used.
Sitting on a gold mine.
So with that, I do recommend approval, and I can answer any questions you may have.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer, second by Mr. Smith. Any further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to approve Agreement A, 2025-12, old landfill monitoring with Geotech. Mr. Schrader.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, Council, this is basically the same item, but for our old landfill. Those services are estimated at $11,475, and I ask you to authorize and grant the mayor to sign. I can answer any questions you may have.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer.
Second.
Second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to approve Resolution R 2025-07, a resolution establishing water and sewer rate increases for 2025. Mr. Schrader.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, Council. The council reviewed the outcome of the city's rate study completed by HDR Engineering at their January 30th, 2023 work session. Rate increases were set for 2023 and 2024 at the March 6, 2023 council meeting. At this time, we would like to set rates for 2025. Per the rate study, the rate increases take into account past and future projects, operations and maintenance of our system, and administrative costs. I did attach a list of previous projects and current projects that are ongoing since 2019. It's not an all-inclusive list, but it does highlight some of our bigger projects and how they were funded, whether through a SRF loan or city-funded. Total of just our city projects comes out to roughly $98 million. And then we do have the Randall Rural Water Secondary Source Project. That's roughly at $70 million. There is approximately $14 million in grants included in that Randall project. Not included in that $98 million for our city projects is roughly $20 million in grants we received from the DANR. With that, I was asked to provide kind of where we sit with other cities. After AE2S always puts together a rate study. After 2023, we were sitting third highest of what was reported. Not all communities had reported. doing a little bit of research. Right now, it appears after these rates, we still would be sitting third, but the margins are closer. After next year, there's a chance we could move up to 2 or possibly 1. But I do feel that after we do these rates increases, after next year, we level off, and we've then accounted for our large projects, being we just completely updated our wastewater treatment facilities. We're updating how we move water through the city. Instead of pumping from the old water treatment plant, now we'll be pumping from our ground storage tank. Then it also accounts for our Randall Row Water Project. So with that, I can answer any questions you may have, or if there are any from the public.
Joe, at some time, could you supply us with the number of businesses or households that are in the county that are using city services? And the reason I ask that question is, I looked up on Huron, and they charge a 30% fee if you're not in the city limits and you hook up to city utilities.
I could provide that number. We have discussed that in the past. What we've been doing since I took over in this position is we've been requiring those individuals to sign annexation agreements if they ever become contiguous to the city. And for that reason, I don't know if we would want to charge that excess amount, because I think we want to promote expansion of the city, if at all possible. And if it makes sense for us to serve them, I feel like we should. So that's why we have not been doing that. But I could definitely review that and see how many other additional are being served that are in the county.
Joe, you mentioned that we're going up, obviously, with where we're ranking in the state of South Dakota. The other cities, are they having projects going on at the same time that they'll probably have to raise their rates?
Yes, and it's been ongoing.
So that's as if nobody raises their rates, that's where we'll be landed. But we're fully anticipating that others will be increasing. And it's been presented to us before that we'll land, we think, somewhere about in the middle. Eventually.
We do hope to get back to the middle, yes.
I would entertain a motion on this. You were racing earlier.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer,
Second.
second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion?
One more thing, Joe. Could you do, when I looked at Huron's, it looked like their manufacturing, I guess I would say the larger lines, were quite a bit lower than ours as far as the fee structure. If I was looking at it properly, I'd be curious, is that gaining them businesses because our water, it's a commodity, is too high? Are they looking at that when they're looking at growing their business or relocating a business? Are they saying, that's more of a development question, but I'd be just curious if I was looking at it properly.
Correct. So right now, I believe Huron's largest water user uses roughly 1 million gallons a day. We don't have anybody close to that. We're lucky if we see, I want to say Performance Pets and Avera are our larger water users, and I want to say they're at roughly 50,000 gallons a month. And I'm trying to pull from memory. That might be incorrect. If it's incorrect, I'll update you at the next meeting. But if we were to, if someone were interested in coming to town, we would try to work with that entity to come to a number that we both see that would work for both of us, and then that would have to come forward to be approved by council if it was a different rate.
Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this?
Good evening. My name is John Gard, and I did send an email, I believe, to all of you regarding my intention of being here tonight, and just have a couple of questions. First of all, I'd like to thank a couple of people who responded to my email that I sent out earlier. Mayor Jordan Hansen, I want to say thank you so much. You gave me a spreadsheet, gave me the information for the rates of 2023. Greatly appreciate that.
It was Stephanie that got the spreadsheet.
And Stephanie? Okay, I'm adding you to my list. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I'd also like to thank Michael Bathke as well. Mike, I want to say thank you for inviting me to be here. Greatly appreciate it. You're probably wondering, why am I here? And the answer to that question is that I'm a retired individual, like a number of my neighbors are, and things like that. A number of us live on fixed income, and of course, we like to see the weight or the increases not go up as high in certain areas such as water and sewer. So based upon the information that you had sent me, it's my understanding that the most recent rate information regarding water and sewer rates in comparison to other cities in South Dakota is currently available for only 2023. And in reviewing the numbers, water and sewer rates for 2023 that I received today from you, Mr. Mayor, at that time we had higher water rates than those of Sioux Falls, Rapid City, and Watertown. The only city on the list that had a higher rate was Yankton. In comparing our sewer rates to the other four communities, we had the highest rate of all. Last year, during our 4 quarterly rate increases during the months of January, April, July, and October, our base water rate went up from $13.94 to $16.75 as of October, which we're currently paying right now. And my understanding is that the water rate unit was basically the same, and that was $6.48. Now, the proposed water rate for 2025 will increase in April and again during the month of October, which will raise our monthly rate from $16.75, which is where we currently are now, to $20.25. Plus, the water unit rate will increase from our current rate of $6.48 to $8.16. Sewer rates will also go up. In April, again, in October, from our current base rate of $30.65 to $32.03 in October. Finally, the per unit sewer rate will increase from what we are paying now of $4.22 to $4.31. When factoring in all the rate increases to include water base rate, water unit rate, sewer base rate, and sewer unit rate, the total monthly increase will be $6.72 per month, according to the historical rate changes chart, which was available through the city of Mitchell. So I'd like to just close with asking a couple of questions. Based upon this overall rate increase per month, how do our rates compare to those in Sioux Falls, Rapid City, Watertown, and Yankton? And the last question, which is, when would the water and sewer rate numbers for 2024 be available? Thank you for your time. It is greatly appreciated.
Thank you. I think we looked up, Mr. Schrader, why don't you answer those questions? You have all the information.
So the rate study from AE2S would come out this fall for 2024. Looking at 2023, I do believe Harrisburg was not on that list, who is relatively high.
106.21 for sewer.
This is the spreadsheet I emailed this gentleman today.
That's the last one we put together. They were a lot higher.
Gotcha. Yeah, their total for 6,000 gallons used $153.56. I pulled up Brandon. They're at $159.77. And I found Yankton's rates off their websites, who total will be $138.60, which is, yep. And to Councilor Smith's comments, everyone is, I shouldn't say everyone, the majority of first-class municipalities used up all of their ARPA dollars, and those are in the process of, they have to be in the process of being instructed now, so their rates are increasing. you know, taking on the Randall project did put us above some of the other municipalities just because we did go above and beyond what our ARPA dollars were for that project. But given Randall did go after additional ARPA dollars too, but it is a big project in investing in our future.
And if I can add something to that too, we knew when the ARPA funds came out, we were already in the design phase for the projects that Joe listed earlier, that sheet that was on here before, where a lot of cities started that planning phase after us. So that's why we keep saying, even though our rates are going up faster than the other ones, we know that they're going to have to keep up once they get to the same point of construction and implementation that we are, so that they can expend all of their ARPA money funds that they got, the grant funds that they got. We were just already planning to do the improvements, so we're 2 steps ahead of where everyone else is in the process.
And I've given this a lot of thought because I've received feedback too, and I look through the list of our current and past projects, and I keep thinking, so what do we take out? You know, what if we want, I mean, you know, we don't, I guess the general public has never been in a position where we didn't have enough water. But it's a very real scenario, if we only stay with the BY water source, that there may be a time that we would run out and we would not be able to serve people of our community. And so I feel like the Randall, like we celebrate the fact that we are able to come together and make sure that we've ensured that the public will have water for generations to come. I mean, this is a wonderful thing. But is it going to cost us money? Yeah, but what's the cost of not having water? I mean, I think we have to consider that. And I look at all of these projects that, as often as we can, we do the SRF loan, but every once in a while we have to use city-funded. We do city-funded projects. Regardless, we have to pay for the loans when we take them out. But one way or the other, I look at all these things and I'm like, you know, the people on, you know, wherever, or the people here, whatever, these people that are benefiting from these projects would say this is vitally important. So I always look at this and I'm like, well, what do you cut? What do you say? Well, if we're going to save money on our utilities, then what are we not going to do? And I have a hard time answering that.
Welcome.
Jeff McCormick with SPN. I pulled up a couple of the reports that we did back in 2016 and 20 in preparation for those agreements that you looked at earlier. In those 2 studies, we had kind of the catch-all. It didn't identify probably that separate out those projects that we were going forward at that time. So Sanborn, East Central, all of those were separated out. And we had what's remaining with the old cast iron and clay pipe. And at that time, there was about $200 million worth of improvements that needed to happen. That's probably 400, 500 now, with the amount that we've seen increase over the last few years. So as much as I don't want my rate to go up anymore as well, this is something that's going to be needed. And DNR pretty much puts funding equal across the board through the state. And they're requiring, and I don't know what you had the chart up there before, was that 5,000 gallon users? 6,000? So that was even a little bit more. But the state right now, for municipalities to get really any type of grant dollars on it, you have to be at roughly $65 for that 5,000 gallon user for water and $65 a month for the user for the sewer, or 130. So we're not doing too bad when you look at the whole picture of the entire state with that part of it. So any other questions that you might have for me on that? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Roger Music, I just want to compliment the city. The best thing you've ever done as a city council is put in the pipeline to the Missouri River. I can still remember how bad the water smelled. You couldn't take a shower in it. You smelled worse getting out of the shower than you did getting in. Probably the second most important thing is the recent addition for more water from another source, because we may not need it for 10 years, but when we do need it, it'll be very, very important. So good job.
Good job. Okay, anyone else from the audience have any other questions or statements or questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to approve resolution R 2025-04, plot of Lot 3 of Haley Edition in Government Lot 4 of Northwest, wait. Oh, wait, do I have to read this whole thing now? No. Okay. As shown on the agenda. Mr. Jenniges.
Way to save time.
Thank you, Al.
Mr. Mayor, Council, Planning Commission recommended approval of this 7-0. This is outside city limits, but within the ETJ, so it's the city's zoning jurisdiction. The county has already heard this as well and has approved it. There's an access easement coming across off of 54th Avenue. There is an approach there that's already existing. Rusty, the county highway superintendent, has signed off on the approach that's already there for this location as well. Can answer any questions that you have for me.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Cardle, second by Bathke. Okay, further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to approve resolution R 2025-06, plot of lots A, B, and C of the Depot Second Edition. Mr. Jennings.
Mr. Mayor, Council, Planning Commission recommended approval of this 7-0. This will look very familiar to you. You approved this a resolution with the same name last year, but the plat dimensions have changed for lots A, B, and C. During their discussion with the railroad requested 1 foot on the south side of Lot B. And then when they were redoing that, the city of Mitchell requested to have that extra easement coming down from West Railroad Street and into our parking lot that's right in front of the depot. Previously, it was just a 16-foot and it wasn't the L shape. Now we requested the L shape, so that way we always have ingress and egress out of there. Hopefully, this is the last thing that we have to do with the brewery, but with the way things have gone with the brewery, don't hold your breath. I can answer any questions that you have.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer, second by Mr. Sabers. Further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to approve resolution R 2025-05, bridge inspections for 2025 with Bros Engineering. Mr. Schrader.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, Council, this resolution is selecting our bridge consultant for inspections for the year. The DOT pays 80% and the city covers the other 20. We are selecting Bros Engineering, as this consultant has been selected in the past. They've done all of our bridge work for as far back as I can see. Yeah, and they've helped us with our bridge inspections, bridge grants, and design, inspection, and bridge replacement projects. And with that, I do recommend council's approval of the resolution and authorize the mayor to sign.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer,
Second.
second by Mrs. Church. Any further discussion?
My name is Mike Valley. I just remind you all that it's a federal law that all bridges have to be inspected if they're over 20 feet every other year. So it isn't just something that Joe comes up with, but it is a federal law. All bridges, I don't care if you're county, township, city, whatever, every bridge in the nation has got to be inspected every other year if it's over 20 feet. And I want to just second what Roger said. That getting of a second source of water is crucial. And I would add it to one of the things on his list. If I am a company coming in here, I'm going to make darn sure there's plenty of water in the future, not only for my business, but for my employees. So I think that's a crucial economic development tool also, what we've done with bringing in. We're setting very well for our water supply, and so thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else in the audience like to discuss this? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Second reading on ordinance O 2025-01, updating provisions of the City of Mitchell Code in relation to the use of the term fire marshal. Mr. Johnson.
All right, so this is second reading. You heard me explain this last time. Again, it's just updating the terminology to coincide with kind of the restructuring going on in that Department of Fire and EMS No changes since last meeting. I'll take any questions if there are any.
Motion by Mr. Smith. Second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to speak on this? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Move to adopt.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer, second by Mr. McArdle. Further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? Roll call.
Barrington.
Aye.
Bathke.
Aye.
Charles. Aye. Smith.
Aye.
Sabers.
Aye.
Goldammer.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle.
Aye.
Motion carries. Action to approve Resolution R 2025-03, a resolution amending the 2025 compensation plan for the city of Mitchell. Ms. Elwine.
Mayor and council, the resolution that's shown on the screen is making two changes to the 2025 compensation and classification plan for the city of Mitchell. The first one is eliminating the fire marshal position that was previously, this is the wrong one, hold on. In the packet, we had an error on the resolution. I did upload the corrected version online. I have it here up on the screen. So the resolution would eliminate the fire marshal position at a wage grade 21, and it would be instead creating an assistant chief of fire and EMS at a wage grade 22. This is really allowing for some additional progression within the department, and now that we have separated the public safety department into police and fire as separate departments. There may be some of the previous fire marshal duties or previous job tasks assigned to the assistant chief of police, but they are really assisting with the management and the operations of the department as a whole. The second one is we are eliminating the administrative secretary that used to be in the Park and Recreation Department. The position is currently vacant due to retirement, and adding an additional park specialist position. Oh, and I had this listed wrong. This should have been administrative assistant at a grade 12. Two mistakes on the same thing. I will fix this one too. Sorry about that.
If it was a spreadsheet, it would have been perfect.
The point was on the second change, it will not be a cost increase at all because they're in the same grade for the position. So I can answer any questions. I apologize for the error. I'll get that corrected right now. So I do have another version for you already. Sorry about that.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mrs. Jerks,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Goldhammer. Further discussion?
When we look at the change, is the idea that the park specialist is going to absorb some of those roles and responsibilities?
So what has happened is Kevin Nelson there was some duplication of tasks being completed, quite frankly. Kevin has taken on the board tasks that the position used to do. So he's doing his board agendas and things like that. The rental of the shelters has moved over to the rec center. And then this new park specialist will be focused at the campground. And then Kevin, you're going to have to name I can't remember the call center name, so you have to explain that part.
That's exactly what it is a call center. What had been going on is that calls for the campground, those people who didn't register online for a camping space, they would call and the phone rang to our former administrative assistant's office. And she would then go through the steps of registering them or taking the reservation and taking their payment for it. We're right now considering using a call center. That call center is on a fee basis per minute, and based upon the calculations I've done, if we implement a percentage of an increase across the boards on all camping spaces, it would help absorb the cost of what that would be for those people who are calling in and using that. We can take it several steps down the road to where immediately when they call that number, it's not going to take them to the call center. In fact, right now, Angel's Voice is still on there, and it takes them all the way to the end. If you want to cancel or if you have questions on, then it goes to that number. You can push a button to get to that next number. That's our intent, is to leave it on there so that not everyone would be calling and then using the call center for that purpose. That's not in place yet, but it's something I'm considering, and we'll need to look at that next month for our park board meeting.
And I have that correction made so we don't have an employee thinking that's just been eliminated, so.
Further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this?
Kevin, as you look to update this, would there be a possibility that we could also look at the reservation system as a whole? I know as somebody who personally has reserved park space, it sometimes can seem frustrating that I don't know for sure immediately if I have the space or what requirements you have. I don't know if they're like, I'm of a newer age where I want immediate results, and so I don't know if that's possible or not with the park space or with those requirements, but
So this is a shelter rental and not a campground reservation, correct?
correct. That I've reserved both shelters, parks, I think almost most major facilities that we have. for
I'm not
different
certain
activities.
how quick the turnaround is on that, but I know it's the same reservation, or the same system that we use for payment and for our memberships at the rec center, so it is a universal system for us. I know that I get an email notification when you or anybody else has done a shelter reservation. I believe that same email notification would come out to you. How quick that is, I'm not certain. I don't get those notices until the next morning.
Okay.
Okay. Further discussion?
Again, this is the resolution that we're asking you to act on, as shown on the board.
As shown on the board. Okay. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Updates on plans to present SHPO for approval of future golf course. Mr. Nelson, the moment you've been waiting for all night long.
Mr. Mayor and Council, in 2024, improvements have been planned and budgeted for this area of the golf course, specifically holes 11 and 12. However, in taking the required steps of first contacting SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Office, to inform them of our plans, they indicated that what we were planning would not be permitted due to the proximity and existence of historical artifacts. Thus, we are required to submit a modified plan that will meet their approval before any permission will be granted by them to pursue future improvements in this area of Lakeview. We attached what the improvements, our hopeful improvements would be on there. Basically, in a nutshell, it's a sensitive area of the golf course that's been designated as a national monument. So any future plans for course development, if approved by SHPO, would need to be done via adding fill and not by disturbing the current surfaces there. Any questions, I'd be happy to answer. And Jason, I believe, has been sitting here throughout the meeting as well, and he could step up.
We got to get him up here. You can't just let him sit there all night.
Kevin,
I thought he was just here to find out if he got new equipment or not.
I'll ask Dan a question since he's.
Kevin,
he's the
when will
liaison.
they give you an answer? What
It
year?
could be months.
Could be days.
So my question is, obviously, we did not put anything into the budget this year, and I don't know if that was divine intervention or what, but I guess it worked out very well. But Dan, as far as you're concerned, with the original phases we did almost like 1 through 8, is this going to have any negative bearing, or do you think we're still going to be okay? I mean, what they've done out there right now is really nice, very nice.
Jason's here, can also speak on this, but to me, this is a standalone, with hole 12 be eliminated, it's going to make a par 3 that's non-usable. The 12, once we get 14 opened up, the new par 3. So it'll be a little bit of walk. Most people drive, 95%, 98% of the people ride. So the old 11's a little farther away. It would have made it a little more player-friendly, maybe as you say. But it's not going to affect the golf course. And like phase, I don't know where we're at, phase 3, we're combining some. The next phase is way by the cemetery, so it's out of the Indian protection ground, wherever you want to call it. This one, Jason can correct me, but it happened on Friday. They were going to start on hole 11 on Monday. So the trees got cut down. That was a negative. Otherwise, the hole's going to play the same. And, probably the part is the next hole, the new tee boxes are going to be right on top of the 12 green, which is a mound. And Jason, why don't you touch base? 12 green is the mound, correct? So you can add, you can't take away. That would be probably the worst part of it.
Jason Gary, Golf and Cemetery. So what we would do going forward is shift what the plans were and make sure that we're out of any sensitive spots. And then the hope is that they'll approve that modification. So,
That addition to me will make the next hole. Needs to be a little longer. The tee box is a little bit, in my opinion, a little goofy golf. It's a little bit, you got to hit a draw, which 5% of the golfers hit a draw. You know, most of them go right, but it'll make it a better hole.
yeah. And then the current tee boxes are just totally flat with the ground, and these will be raised up, and so none of the irrigation will change. So that part of it shouldn't be an issue. Down on 11, there would be some irrigation changes, but that would all be in the plan, and they will tell us yay or nay, so.
And so theoretically, part of it was taking trees out and adding some trees and trying to improve positioning. And so we can still probably move forward potentially with that. But in reality, we're just going to hold tight until you guys get back to us. I'm sure Justin and Kevin and everybody are going to be involved. And so at that point in time, we'll see if we want to put something into the 26 budget. But for now, we're just going to hold tight and you guys can report back.
Yeah, as far as that area is concerned, that's what the plan is.
Okay.
See what we're allowed to do and then go forward from there.
Okay, sounds good.
Yep.
Optimistically, if we have another year like this year, it'd be really nice to get, is that called phase 3? We kind of combined some phases, the next phase. At the 14 and 5 greens.
Yeah, so they got kind of combined a little bit, just simply for the fact of driving range and short course got combined with number 14. So, and part of that was just because we had some private funds that had voiced interest of contributing to that part of it. So yes, all of it was part of the master plan. It was just combining some of it together. So.
Any other questions before I entertain a motion? I need one. Oh, that's just an update. We can stretch it. We can go to 10. Okay. All right. We are adjourned.